depth charge, all of these things, viable statements I could have said and didn't. Just out of time there for the Gnarl, and Hodgson now taking a fair amount of damage, but that's
late as always. I'm late as always. But don't let that distract you from the fact that you're about to experience 2 hours of quality content.
2 hours and the rest.
I hope it's not fucking 3 hours.
Oh, well, it'll just be like a little bit more than 2.
Okay.
But that's just how it is. We're filling in for the regular. Well, me not so much, but Stillburn definitely. We're filling in for our regular voices as we're currently short on them. They seem to have worked their way out of the box and hidden themselves. But don't you worry. Later on, you'll hear the sultry tones of today's Rays commentator Copy and his assistant commentator Cradden, with potentially the extra sultry tones of Ted Travitz as he meanders his way onto the pit lane late
excellent.
after driving his own bus to the track. But in the meantime, I guess we can start here, and
So what's happening today then?
Start
What's going on? What's going on this afternoon, evening? Evening?
I don't know. You're the director. You tell me.
Oh, mate, I just turn up. I turn up like 5 minutes to go. I set some stuff up in OBS and we just wing it. And now
look, it says it on the screen
as well.
We're at
United States, right? Okay, United States. That's Road Atlanta, right?
No, but it is at probably the most pretentiously named circuit in the world because they think they're that good. They have the Circuit of the Americas.
The Glen.
Like somehow, like like somehow all of the Americas decided to come together and build COTA. No, it was just Tilka in a field, and I don't think any of the America. I don't think anyone knows about this. It was just Tilka in a field somewhere. But you know, that's just how it is. But we are here, live and in charge for, I don't know, what should we say? A spicy race?
Well, I've been out of the loop for the last couple of weeks. So I think there was a race last week. I want to say there was. So I presume that there is going to be some kind of result for that, some kind of race last week.
I don't know. Why don't
not trying to stall for time so I can actually
I tell you what,
the sheet up and have a look.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask nicely for the director to potentially put some graphics on the screen, but I'm guessing that's not going to happen, is it?
It would be beneficial for the director to be given the graphics to put on the stream, but that's fine. We can. I'm sure we can work around that somehow. But in any case, I will have.
It's in VLF on info.
I'll have.
Okay, I will talk over the results while we see if we can get it on the screen.
Can you do it in the football result, final classification style?
But I can do that for Racing Rivals.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine.
The big thing to take away from last week is the last corner incident between Zydox and Sunny was obviously spotted, noted, and submitted. And the outcome of that was Zydox was dispensed thusly a 10-second penalty for causing a collision on Sunny. And the 10-second penalty then obviously takes both the race win, being that Zydox crossed the race line in first after Sunny was put sideways, and it demotes him all the way down to P5. In the process of doing so, Sunny is then promoted to first, Somtha is promoted to second, and Mancho, repping the Red Bull, somehow Red Bull scraping points out of nowhere, is promoted to third, and Miffy is promoted to fourth. So a good result. Miffy stolen of his continuous P5 streak with a P4 by Zydox. Further down the field, Glenn 6, Hodgson 7, Dorman 8, Wilder 9, and Monty rounds out the top 10 in P10. Yes, that was how to say those things. And then there were many retirements because apparently people can't drive in wet Mexico. Oh no, there was only 2 retirements in the wet. My apologies. The rest all came in the dry.
Did the weather change mid-race, did it?
It changed, I want to say, just shy of halfway into the race. And then it was like that weird sort of like 2 dry for inters, but 2 wet for slicks sort of like barrier, while everyone was then finding feet. And a safety car ultimately decided when the best time was to pit for slicks, rather than people guessing during hot running.
Generally, Jeff's on the ball with those kind of calls anyway.
Typically,
any
yeah.
Surprises with last week's result that you viewed, having participated yourself? Anything particularly surprising?
Not surprising. I think a lot of it was part of the course. Gaben obviously put in absolute stonks hours and was unreal fast. His pace in qualifying was, I think, God tier is the accurate description. I'll quickly bang out his Q3 time in the wet was pole position of 123.4. 123.4. The next fastest time was Sunny. No, not exactly a slouch. 124.6. 1.2 seconds. 1.2 seconds slower than Gaben. So I think it's fair to say Gaben had a spicing drizzle of pace, and it ultimately ended up with him in a wall, and then with severe car damage and a retirement resulting from the car damage. So I think that's the biggest surprise. One could categorize it as what we would call in the pre-show as a flop. I think that's fair. But
well, mistakes happen, don't they? And that's the world of motor racing, as some would call it.
A certain Australian that was at the track today.
The what, sorry?
The certain Australian that was at the track.
Yes. Yes.
Makomasi was at the Australian Grand Prix.
He was, and everybody wondered why some booky shit happened today. But anyway, that's spoilers if you haven't seen the result that's all over the news so far, or wherever you get your F1 information from. Anyway, so that's last week's race. How did that affect the championships, do you reckon? I've got some driver championship standings if you're interested in those.
Have you got them for the screen or just for the voice?
Yeah, go on then.
I'm just going to quickly crack the whip out because apparently all the drivers are late. I'm just going to type that into the chat. So we've got... was it a change at the top? I'm sure Dan will quickly shout yes or no. It was a change at the top. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. Yes, Dan, was it a change at the top of the championship? I can't. You can do maths faster than I can.
Yes, 1 point gap from Zydox to a 15-point gap for Sonny.
Thank you. So Sonny now again in the championship lead after those two have seemed to have leapfrogged each other constantly since Somtha lost control of the championship in round, I want to say Abu Dhabi. So what was that, round 6? Somtha though in the lead for the battle for third between him and Hodge and potentially Gaben. So that's, good for him. Then you've got an AlphaTauri sandwich, 6 and 6. Dorman on the countback due to his race win in the Grand Prix of the Americas. I almost forgot what it was called then. My brain just came back. So obviously his race win by default makes him ahead on countback. The AlphaTauri is looking really strong, which is bad for Travis. And then the final Red Bull in the 4 stack of Red Bulls is Manchu on 74, sorry. And then we've got Maka, Franklin, Shadow, and Glenn in the next pack of cars all close together vying for points. And then you've got, the rest as they fall further down.
I like how Flyer is 15th with 15 points, having only done 3 races.
Yeah, stands par for the course.
I miss him already. How are we looking for time? Do we need to scooch along a bit, or are we good to cruise for a bit more?
No, we're good to cruise for a bit more.
Okay, that's fine.
I think you're the only person I've not had weigh in on the championship battle at the top, but obviously you've seen pretty much every race. So I think it's time for you to weigh in, being that you do probably watch the race more than anyone else here.
Well, I mean, watching the race, I watched the race from a different perspective, I suppose. It's not necessarily looking at it from, that person's doing well, or I hope they win, but it's more what's going to be a good show, really. So I like it when there's a lot to show the viewers, and that means that my job is a bit easier, really. But it's not entirely unexpected, to be honest, how things are panning out. It's good to see something near the top. It's me and him both started at the same time, so it's good that one of us ended up with a pair of jeans and the other one didn't. So it's
okay, you've definitely found a way to use that.
And I mean, I suppose it's good to see Hodge as well, getting some extra leverage for Red Bull at the top. Obviously, the start of the season, no Trav on the team, so and no Alex as well. Actually, come to think of it, so that's 2 big forces of VLF1 missing, and there's a void to fill. So it's interesting to see Hodgson fill that. Former Ferrari and Renault boy, so not unexpected. Interesting to see where everybody's fitting. I don't like making controversial opinions because I'm a very amenable person, affable person. So I'm perfectly content to say that everybody's doing their best.
I think it's fair to say that most people are doing their best. I don't think anyone's here just to mess around and find out. But obviously there are massive gulfs in certain parts of the grid. There are subdivisions of the championship, if you could call it. There's a battle for first, there's a battle for third, there's a battle for fifth down to ninth. There's a battle for the top 10. There's a battle of the I don't want to say shitters, but the battle of the shitters. Like it seems to be forming up quite nicely now that we're about halfway through the season. That everyone has a clear sort of, okay, I am fighting this person or these people, and this is sort of my realistic aim. Because Miffy's a fantastic driver, but he's not exactly trying to compete with Sonny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are the and I'm gonna pick your director brain. Are there any of those battles that seem to be more of a I'm gonna watch out for this and then put it on the broadcast? Do any of them jump to mind? Is there Franklin's quite close to Maka. Let's throw that one on over Dorman versus Gaben or something.
I would be lying if I said no. So yes, there are certain combinations of people I look for. Generally, it's you and Glenn because that's just the running. That's just the running meme of how you two interact, and it's always a very interesting combination of personalities and opinions, like Senna and Prost, as it were.
Okay, that's a good comparison. Are there any battles that you actually look out for? Not based on that, like actually based on how the championship is, or is it just sort of like as things appear on track?
Nah, I'd see how the dice roll in the morning, and then play with the hand I'm given.
That's fair. That's fair.
Otherwise, you end up favoriting people, and then it just gets a bit boring. I think if you're always following the same cars and stuff. So, I'd like to think that the coverage will go to whoever's performing on the day. You know.
That's fair. That's I'm glad to hear that it's actually somewhat semi not random, but live, even though it is live. You know what I mean? Like there's no there aren't too many scripts behind the scene. Not that I wouldn't write some of them or anything.
Would you like an interesting statistic, which I've just gleaned from the standings page we still got on the screen at the moment?
Go on then.
I believe
I'm sure it'll make Dan happy.
There is only one driver in the championship that has not retired from a single race this season so far. And it's Hodgson.
Oh my god, it's actually Hodgson.
Only seven people have attended all races by the looks of it, but my eyes are pretty tired because I've been up since 5, but it looks like only 7 people have attended all races so far. And one of those attendance has not retired at all.
A 100% attendance being low isn't that unusual because people have lives. I say low, that's about half the grid, so maybe it's not that bad. But it's definitely an interesting stat to see that only one hasn't DNF'd. Oh, Glenn and Nawar also haven't retired, but they don't have perfect attendance.
Yeah, that was the other point of contention.
Oh, and Miffy.
Really. But not retiring is good. I'm just going to flick this to the next slide because obviously we've been on that one for a little
307.
bit.
307. Yep.
That's a lot of points.
That is basically the championship decided already.
It's 101 points.
It's 101 points.
Over a one-man team of Haas F1.
Well, Red Bull are then only 102 points behind with a two-man team.
They're trying their best.
Well, they're trying it very well. 205 points in a two-man team in a field like ours isn't that bad. Like it's very very respectable. Wait, what? It's sorry. We've got Aston Martin obviously running away 307. I think a lot of people are saying, yeah, the championship's done. Battle for second place, I want to say, is Haas on 206, Red Bull on 205, AlphaTauri on 196, because that's only 10 points away from Haas. The Red Bull Junior team is obviously needs disbanding because that's ridiculous numbers for
at the start of the season.
Definitely not numbers that a junior team should be pulling out at all.
That's a problem for the administration, mate. That is.
Wait, where the administration?
Yep.
Further down the field, then, teams yet to break 100 points. Ferrari on 89, so very close. McLaren on 76. I think, given on recent form, that's likely to get to 100 within 2 or 3 races. Alpine, 5-6 races ago, me and Dan were bemoaning them in the pre-show of being on fat duck 0 points. They're on 68. You know, they're nearly to a century when not that long ago in memory, they were literally on 0.
And now they've got 68.
Now we have, now they've got 68.
Williams is a bit of a hard one for you, I imagine, just because trying to fill those seats each week is not proving an easy task. Same with Alfa Romeo. Reserve drivers not a very forthcoming commodity at the moment, so that probably explains why a lot of the project main teams are the mainstays, except Red Bull, who actually has people that come.
I mean, obviously, Red Bull as a project are very, very much running the project system correct. You could say they're doing it too well because their junior drivers have a race win and this season and, you know, a heft load of points. Maybe it's one to look at in the future about how we balance the junior teams. You know, if you win a race, you're automatically not allowed to be in a junior team or something like that. But that's one for the future, not for this season. So it's definitely looking to be incredibly profitable season for Red Bull. It's going to be profitable right up to the end of the season, and then Travis has to get rid of 2 drivers because he can't have 4 top 10. You can only have 2, and currently he has a very small monopoly on them.
And all you got to do is just imagine that Calm's going to bust in through the draft show like Royal Rumble, entrance number 25th. And he's just going to be like, Red Bull, I'm on you. Let's go. And then F122 kills it. The man returns. Dare we dream?
Well, dare we dream? I mean, it would be nice to think of Calm. I mean, I might just get back on Merc again for like the 15th time. Why not? Just to have a quick look forward to what's likely to happen, or what is going to happen in the very near future, especially for those sat at home wondering what the hell's going on. There are a should we say there's a deep lap of drivers for today.
Deep lap.
A deep lack. So it's not just the casters that are struggling. It's also the team, the drivers. We only have enough to run Q2, and even then, it's barely enough. There are 12. Right, we barely have enough to do Q2. 12 drivers. I am currently being spammed with DMs, and as the racing director, it's my job to check what's going on. It's fine.
You can check on that. So I will try and blag
the
story for a moment.
It's already been resolved. So yeah, we're going straight to Q2. Oh, okay. There are only 12 drivers, so expect sparse safety cars. Well, you know what safety cars can be like. If you would like some insider information, though, it's a wet race. It's a full wet race.
Oh, well, I don't know, Chief, because I'm looking at Q1 and it's looking pretty not wet at the moment on the track.
It's a full just one for the casting team. It's gonna be full wet until plus 30 minutes, at which point it's then gonna be light rain. Plus 45 will be dry.
Hopefully the casting team has copied all of that information.
Get it? Copy, because he's on the casting team.
Anyway, we've got any last couple of thoughts, I guess, because it's looking like we will have a couple of minutes until we have to go live. So, what's your anticipations for today? Bearing in mind, A, you're in the race, and B, it's going to be a wet one.
Well, suddenly the entire first sector of this track just becomes craziness because no traction, no speed, big. Suddenly I've gone from being probably no safety cars because there's not a lot of drivers and it's a nice wide track to I think there's going to be trouble because it's wet.
Excellent.
However, your turn to do the same, but give me a bit more detail.
Well, Kota is, I would say, quite a dangerous track in the wet. I've only tried it a couple of times. I think I want to say my last race on it was wet, a couple of seasons ago. And Sector 1, those S's, which have definitely not been copied from Silverstone, can definitely be challenging in the wet, let alone when you've got a car alongside you. So it's going to be very much a question of, in the early game, how people are going to handle themselves,
Words.
How people are going to handle themselves in Sector 1 in the wet. Yep. So that is going to be my point of focus, I think, when I'm personally looking for stuff. Aside from that, I mean, it's fairly, I don't know, it's a fairly, overtakey track, I would say. You've got DRS straights into big dive bomb turns.
We've got straights.
Yeah, I mean, one's a curve, one's a curvy straight.
Well, we haven't got DRS as more than I've got because of the rain.
No, but later on in the race, you should have DRS, no?
Potentially towards the end of the race. We may get 1 or 2 laps of DRS.
Oh, I thought you said it was going to dry up after half an hour. I misunderstood.
After half an hour, it goes to light rain, and then it says plus 45 is overcast with 50% chance.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we'll have to see what everybody's respective Jeff comes out on that one then. So maybe we get some DRS action, maybe not. The big turns I was referring to around that, though, turn 1, turn 12, those are big zones for people just sending it up the inside. So definitely things to look out for there. Sonny's probably going to run away with it again. I mean, is Zydox even here? Zydox might run away. It's just insert one of the top 4 in the championship name. It would be good to see. Has some of them won a race yet? Not BM, generally.
No. Plenty of second places, no one.
Okay, it would be good to. I always root for my boy Somther. We share a special connection, but it's well, that sounds a bit wrong, actually, doesn't it? It'd be good to see him take the trophy, whatever it is, the golden cowboy hat or whatever they get in Texas. But a bit of a change. But I'm not expecting anything super spicy during this race. But then everybody was expecting the Australian Grand Prix this weekend to be quite boring, I think. So obviously expectations can change. The winds blow in mysterious ways, and they're blowing clouds on the track at the moment.
That's fair. Just one point I want to make before we hand over to them. But this one, for the casters, if you've got your ears open, I want to see if Gaben can reproduce this insane pace in the rain. Maybe he's the new flyer. Maybe he is the new wet king. One for Cradden and Copy to watch out for. Cradden, obviously the stats man and the co-commentator for today, so he's going to be keying in on that kind of information natively. So hopefully it's everyone at home, watch out for it. Gaben could be on a hot one. But in the meantime, I think everyone is prepared for the Q1 skip. If we want... Yep, no, I lie. They are ready for the Q1 skip, so they're waiting for something to go on track to bank in the banker lap. So with that, I think it's time we head over to the commentary box. Today's duo, as I said, lead commentator Copy and co-commentator Cradden, and I think they're going to be ready to take it away for some fast-paced action.
Roll VT.
Ladies and gentlemen, military spending, fast food, box office receipts, Olympic gold medals. Just 4 of the things in which the US leads the world. Let's see if that will inspire our drivers today to lead the rest of the grid. This is the Circuit of the Americas, and we're here for round 14 of our calendar here in Season 6. You can see the clear blue skies that were there for Q1, but I have a feeling a hard rain is going to fall, to quote our boy Bob Dylan, from these shores. Look at this circuit. You get to see it, our drivers won't be. They'll be having rain impeding their fields of view. Sector 1, as Blease pointed out in the pre-show, is going to be a litany of confusion and chaos. And there's going to be straights without DRS. I just want to see whether we'll have the chaos that we had in the wet weather of Mexico. I'm Credden, and with me to lead out this desk is my boy, Pyrophire. Pyro, how's it going?
I'm doing great, and don't ever say again you cannot do track intros very well, because I couldn't even get close to that intro as you did. You're just doing it amazingly, as always.
Cheers, son. I write them down a lot. Movie magic. There's Hollywood.
I think because I write a little bit something down they want to talk about, or what they think could be a good intro, but I think no one can do it as good as you do it. So even though I should probably lead it today, I just leave this stuff to you because it's way more interesting. It's always fun listening to you doing these intros. So yeah,
Charm 100 from Pyro. Yeah, like I've that's gone through all of my notes for today. The rest of the things I've got written down are Hodgson points, Brandon Spinola, and wet weather. That's everything. That's all my notes for the rest of the day.
Perfect. I mean, I am the lead cast today, so leave it to me. Don't worry about that one. I asked my current helper and probably a lot of current helpers at ChatGPT before casting if he could provide any informations on the VL in general. I just was curious to see if there was something in the database about Valence League or F1 of some sorts. Sadly, there wasn't really anything. I expected too much. At least it gave me a fun Ferrari joke for some reason. It said he's not allowed to make fun of Ferrari fans. I told him I'm a Ferrari fan, then suddenly he put out 5 jokes in one go. So there are ways to maneuver ChatGPT. But yeah, I will save the joke for later on. I'm more hyped now about this qualifying because, like you said earlier, it is gonna be a dry qualifying that may lead into a wet race. And as we all know, and for everybody that doesn't know, I explain here once again. In qualifying, once you leave the pits, the car setup is locked, meaning you cannot change it. You can only make minor changes, maybe to the front wing, a little bit to the brake bias, and not a lot else anything anymore. Meaning, if the qualifying is dry and you have a wet race and you think there's gonna be a high chance of a wet race, you might want to choose a wet setup for this one, as obviously you want to get good points in the race, and qualifying doesn't give you any points. It just provides you with a good starting grid, right? So I mean, every driver I think should go with the wet setup. That's why I think you credit with the stats here. We won't see any lap records anymore, but we can always get surprised about this type of stuff. I don't know what the track record is and who is set by. I don't know if you have it, Credit.
Oh man, no, I don't have the lap record for in terms of our actual races that we've done here, but I do have the dry time trial. That will mean nothing today, but I thought I'd give it to you anyway. So the dry time trial record is 1:30.7. I think more important is who holds it, and that is Gaben, who delivered a brilliant performance in wet Mexico qualifying last week. So that's the best sign I can provide that Gaben is going to be on form today. We'll see if he can deliver a brilliant qualifying session for the second week in succession. The other one it's worth pointing out is the history of the USA Grand Prix. It's one that's been dominated by one driver who isn't here, and that is Kamari Williams. Many people still think he's the GOAT of VLF1. He won 3 times through seasons 1 through 3. Only missed out on the 4-peat because of Hodgson's great use of a safety car, and most recently it was run by Crispy. So with Calm and Crispy not here, Hodge on, I think, 30 hours awake in a row after watching the on the real life F1 race this morning, we are quite likely to have a new winner. So yeah, I don't have the lap record. I think we'll be seeing fairly quick times in qualifying. I don't think we'll be seeing anywhere near dry or anywhere near lap records. The big question for me is just going to be whether Gaben can live up to his form from last week. I don't think he'll have such a big gap on the field, but I think he will still be leading qualifying, and that's quite an interesting call, given that Sonny and Zydox are both expected to go quickly. Zydox in qualifying, Sonny maybe later on in the race.
Yeah, and you're right about the fact that Gaben is again in the top of the timing tables. But I just want to point out real quick, for everybody that wasn't here last weekend, Gaben was the fastest man on the wets last weekend as well. He dominated qualifying. He should have dominated the race. Unfortunately for him, the fact that I said should have is that he did not even get to finish the race. Meaning, are we seeing the same dominance today and he actually gets to race this time around? Or do we just see a dominance in qualifying again and in the race it doesn't lead up to anything? Is it just maybe more of a qualifying driver? Is it more because of the nurse? Was it more technical issues? I don't know. What do you think, Credden? I think personally it was more of a little bit of both, a little bit of technical and a little bit of not really knowing what, or maybe the pressure getting a little bit to him. But I might be wrong here. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, well said, Pyro. I think it's a bit of both. I think there was a technical error that Gaben made in the race last week. So as he came out of the last corner, he took the oversteer a bit too far, had a bit of a skid in the rain conditions that were easing, so maybe couldn't judge the changing weather conditions well enough. What actually disqualified him, though, because he wasn't disqualified from that crash, he would have just had to pit again, do a slow lap, pit one more time, and then maybe fight up into high points. What actually saw him off, though, was the fact that he tried to go backwards into the pits, tried to do a hairpin turn into the entry of the pit lane, and because of his slow speed, was judged by the AI of the game to be blocking the pit lane, and as a result got disqualified. So I think he'd already said goodbye to a potential win. That sort of human error, as you say, made sure that he didn't get any points, gave him a disqualification, and really harmed him in his fight in the championship. He is in P5 at the moment. He is 32 points off of Hodgson in P4. Hodge having a perfect points record. Gaben needs to get some more reliability in if he's going to be going for that challenge. One more thing, by the way, you mentioned the setups. So one of the things where Gaben could have been maybe looking like too good, maybe one thing that exaggerated his performance, I think he was leaning towards a wet setup. So in the game, you can change your aerodynamics, transmission, suspensions, brakes, tyre pressures. A lot of the drivers had set up for dry weather and therefore were looking for an edge later in the race. I think Gaben, as it stood, went for the wet setup, so naturally did have a pace advantage in the early part of the race and in qualifying. It's very hard to say, given that it didn't happen, whether Gaben would have continued that advantage, but it's one of the things where he could just put his head in his hands last week. And this week he's got an opportunity. He can sit down, continue based on his great practice in this track, and just deliver a great performance. Whether he gets pole or not, I don't think it's too important. My expectation is that he'll get pole, but as long as he delivers a great, reliable performance, he should easily get into top 3 or 4. But yeah, should be fantastic. I think, Pyro, we're getting close to the start of qualifying. We're in Q1 at the moment, so I think I'm right in saying Q2 is the first taste of competition we'll get today.
Yeah, exactly. Q1 is gonna get skipped today. If you guys on stream can see in the background, wonderful Santa is driving around the track right now. Who finished P2, by the way, last weekend, given a small penalty, a huge penalty, because Psydox got a 10-second time penalty with a collision with Sunny on the last lap. I will go about that real quick later on. I just want to real quick say we currently have 15 drivers. That's why Q1 is gonna get skipped. Something just had to put in a timed lapse, so the game will allow us to move on smoothly into Q2, which, like Credin already said, is gonna be our first real-timed lap where the first 5 drivers are gonna be eliminated, and we're gonna move into Q3. And we're gonna see if Gavin can keep it up or not. And I'm very interested to see which 5 drivers are gonna drop out today, because how close the grid is lately, which I really love, because if a field that close, you never know who might drop out, who's just barely making it in, who makes maybe a strategic call, who has maybe just put in the wrong setup, maybe plays for the race later on, maybe plays for here and there. And the fact that we have a dry qualifying and a wet race plays a huge factor into that as well. I'm just so happy to go into Q3, Q2 and see what we're dealing with.
Yeah, well said, Pyro. We've got 12 drivers, so with Q2 it whittles 15 down to 10 normally. So after Q2, the best 10 classified times, those drivers are going to be the ones qualifying for Q3, the final session. In Q2 as well, normally the tyre in which you set the lap in which you are top 10 locks that driver to that tyre at the start of the race. However, given that we're expecting a heavy rain start to today's race, it's not going to be too important in terms of tyre strategy. However, the big thing that affects this Q2 is the impending wet weather. It's going to be a games done quick summer edition speedrun any percent, because at some point during either this session or Q3, if we're going to start the race with heavy rain, we're going to have a transition from the current dry weather into heavy rain at some point. What that means is that at the moment, drivers can go out, set their best times, and set times that will be much faster than later on when rain falls. This is a massive incentive for the drivers to go out as quickly as they can. They are already in parc fermé conditions, so if they're going for a dry or wet setup, whatever they're choosing, they can't edit their setup beyond a few minor adjustments such as front wing aerodynamics or differential on throttle. What is important is just to go out there and get a fast lap time. So anyone who is not coming out of the pits is absolutely inting it right now. They need to get those great times on the track. Request to production, can we get the mini map on stream? I just want to see who's in the box, who's going out. We've got a massive sigh from production as they undertake that gargantuan task. The Sisyphean labours of Hercules, combining 2 mythologies, is less difficult than what's just happened. He's managed to do it anyway, so send your capes to production.com at VLF1, PO Box 42069. As we see that all of our drivers are out on track, they have got the message. Everyone's looking to set a time as soon as they can. We're on board with Mancho at the moment, so let's take a quick look at this lap. It's also a nice guide to our newer viewers who don't know this circuit. It's the circuit of the Americas. So we'll show you this circuit. This is the first turn. It's up a hill, a lot of elevation change, and then you go into a wall. That's turn 2. That's how you do the circuit. Just kidding. April Fools. Mancho is going to get back on track. So sector 1 is normally a bit faster than this. Franklin's going to show us how. It's an undulating S section. In the dry weather like you're doing now, Franklin's going to go from 6th or 7th at the start, down to approximately 3rd as he takes this last corner to the left. He's a maverick, he's done it in 4th, and accelerating out of that chain of S's, he's going to go towards a hairpin turn to the left. In dry conditions, he's just past the DRS detection zone for the first DRS straight. This is a giant straight now, it's the biggest straight on the circuit, so it's where we would see the dry weather DRS sections. We still have ERS and slipstream available in the wet. He's now approaching the last bit of Sector 2, so the rest of the circuit is littered with corners, not quite as tight as Sector 1 and not quite as fast. They are slower speed. So we've got a nice undulating curve to the left, this one to the right. Franklin lighting up in purple. He's going to take a big sweep to the left here. Hitting those apexes and getting as much speed on the exit is really important. You can normally do this wide sweeping right-hander flat out in the dry. Unlikely you can do it in the wet. These last 2 corners, apex is again important. You don't want to go out of bounds and invalidate 2 laps in a row. Franklin is going to cut the apex perfectly on that final corner, cross the line. That's a 1:33.5, so we'll see for our next few drivers how that stacks up. It's certainly better than Mancho on that lap.
Yeah, and wonderfully said. Thank you for taking us around the track there. Franklin also hitting quite really good apexes there. And while I say that, Blaze already retired. So that's one car out. That's a weird retirement where he did it. I think in Sector 3 it was. It's weird because, let's see if you can see it. Oh my god, he's in the
That's
middle
on
of the
track.
What?
So, I've got no idea how that's happened. Normally, if a car retires, it's terminal damage, which means he's collided with something. So I have no idea how Brandon's car could have collided with something, terminally retired him, so absolutely taken apart some part of his car, and then left him basically in the middle of the racing line. So it's a mystery. It's one that I can't answer right now. What I can say with some confidence, though, is that Blaze is not going to be starring in the feature film Rush Hour 3, nor will he be getting into the third session of qualifying. What is important, though, is because Blaze hasn't set a time, the other drivers just have to set a time to beat him. Basically, one of the 2 drivers who will be dropping out at this stage of Q2 is going to be Blaze. Only one more driver will drop. We've got 5 drivers with times on the board, some for having by far the quickest so far. Gaben, Wilder, Monty, Mancho, Zydox, and Miffy yet to set times, and they've got 10 minutes in which to do it.
Yeah, and it's very weird. And also, which just reminded me, and I don't want to jinx you anything, but lately we haven't had really any game technical issues, like that we had to do a restart or did the game glitch so hard. I remember we used to have a lot of these. Lately, we don't really have those. I mean, the drivers still experience some bugs here and there. It's a Codemasters game, but not really game breaking. Is Alex out?
He's gone. Let's have a look. So we're on board with Gaben now. We'll pass the... Yeah, there he is. That is a showroom position right there for Zydox.
Also with precision to DNF though. I mean, makes more sense how he DNF probably oversteered and couldn't control his car, but also very unlikely to happen there. I mean, usually most drivers either spin out in the S's in Sector 1 or the more technical part between, or like the start of Sector 3. But I don't know, the end of Sector 3 or the long right-hander being on the left side where he DNF. Very weird positions. But that means Mancho, Wilder, and Monty only have to set a time. Doesn't even have to be competitive. And they're through because Sadak and Brennan don't have a time on the timetable, and they're out. And like said earlier, 5 drivers out. I mean, we only had 12, meaning the top 10 make it into Q3. We already have 2 out of 12 out. That the 10 drivers we have for Q3 now. And I'm very happy to see Walla making it, even if it's with a little bit more luck than I wanted him to. But a Q3 appearance is a Q3 appearance, right?
Yeah, well said. You can only play against the field that you've got against you. I think we're all generally used to larger fields, sort of 16 plus drivers would be having Q1. People would have a bit more experience to drive around the circuit a few times. But I do like the idea that because there's a smaller grid, nearly every driver is guaranteed points if they drive the race well. Some for retiring in pits. Don't worry, that isn't a Sector 3 striking again. But yeah, there's not many drivers, which means that every single retirement or every single incident has a lot more weight to it. There's only 2 drivers that will be finishing without points, maybe more if we have retirements. And it's weird to have a Q2 that is completely decided 8 minutes in before half of the drivers have set times based on retirements only. So Blaze and Zydox have made that one happen. I'm potentially more scared that... Wait, is that another retirement? McLaren's stationary in Sector 3. Yeah, Wilder's had an incident, but he's going to keep his car alive. Bit of an end plate just on there, but I think it's emotional damage only. I'm so surprised that the dry circuit of the Americas is causing so many issues. This is the bit where I try not to flame Brandon too much. He's recently switched his controller method, so he's previously been on wheel in days gone by. He used to drive on the wheel a lot. He called it Rig Astley. It's brilliant. I love it. And then he gave it up because he then went to controller after a technical fault with Rig Astley. So what happened recently is Blaze got Rig Astley to work. Hopefully it won't let him down today, and unfortunately it has at the start of Q2. I'm going to put it down to teething problems. And then we have Zydox, who is currently fighting for the World Drivers' Championship. He's really taking it to Sunny at the very top of the table. And equally, on the first lap, no pressure on him, no threat of elimination in the first banker lap. He's trying to get used to the circuit. He slides and goes in Sector 3, so yeah, it sucks to have the Q2 standings decided this way. I'm potentially more excited that the circuit's this dangerous.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said earlier, it's still the dry. We're still in the dry. That meaning later in the race, if it's true and it's gonna just rain like crazy, and even starting with Q3, we either gonna see more DNFs or drivers being a little bit more cautious. One of those two, because I mean, I can see the track being a little dangerous. Maybe the drivers being a little bit too trigger happy, but. I mean, you're completely right. 8 minutes left in Q2, and we already have decided who will go to Q3 and who not. And more importantly, like you said, Zydox not being one of them is crazy, because usually he's just like, let's say, like, or okay, me being a Ferrari fan here might trigger somebody, but it's a little bit like a Ferrari, because if he doesn't have technical issues, and in this case, he would always be at the top, either in first or second place, fighting against Sonny or Gaben in some occasions. And seeing him now being out by his own fault, I mean, I correct my statement. He is literally Leclerc, because Leclerc did the same. He just didn't do it in the USA. But I mean, now that I went on about it, it's literally like Leclerc in real life. If he doesn't have technical issues, he usually is up there, and sometimes he just bins it by himself. But okay. That might be why some drivers don't or like especially Ferrari drivers don't like to give their car a nickname, because they don't want to get too attached before it breaks down. But you know, that's
Like
just
a companion then.
that's just me coping at this point. But yeah. It's very, very, very interesting to see, and I think nobody would have expected it to before qualifying. If we asked who would be the two drivers that wouldn't make it into Q2, we could argue about Brandon, because he's usually also appearing oftentimes in Q3. He's actually a good midfield driver who has a lot of experience, and he has his tracks where he's usually quite good at. Just apparently not being one of them, or like you said earlier, maybe it has something to do with him changing back to his wheel, if I understood that correctly.
Yeah, so it's a wheel to a controller. Currently, Blaze is on the wheel. He's used to use the wheel, then went to controller for a few seasons. This is his first race back at the wheel, so he's had to adjust for both the wheel and also a wet setup in the dries. I actually got a few DMs from him. I asked him about the incident that caused him to retire, and he said that basically, how is a wet setup worse for grip than a dry setup? He used a high downforce setup, and he tried to input the left steering, and the car went right into the barrier. So, yeah, he's teething problems is the best way I can put that. It's the most charitable way I can put that one. Changing any setup or changing any input method is going to cause you to have a bit of a honeymoon period. You're going to have to get stuck in. So he's going to take a while before he gets back to his peak performance. For anyone who's laughing at Blaze and the phrase peak performance based on his current World Drivers' Championship standing, he used to be more than a midfield driver. He used to be sort of fighting for top 6, top 7 in the championship. Indeed, when he joined my team in Season 1, he finished Season 1 with double my point total. So he was definitely in the mix of things. His controller has seen some pretty lackluster performances, and I've talked about it several times where he throws away points as soon as he has them in the final few laps. But enough reverse jinxing on Blaze. We'll see how he does. He's got time to come back in the race. Because he hasn't got through to Q3, if there's a dry start, he will have free tyre choice. There's a bit of a silver lining there. And yeah, we'll just see how that goes for him. Zydox as well. Zydox will qualify as P12. He is going to have to fight from last to first. The sweatboard for dry time trial has him performing very quickly, but obviously it's not the best signal to anyone for him to be coming in and almost immediately binning the car. So yeah, lots of questions rather than answers. Gaben is doing very well. We said that he would be doing well. I said he would be the favourite for qualifying. So far in the dry conditions, he's living up to it. He's living up to his P1 on the dry time trial sweatboard. The question I think most people would have watching is whether that will stay the same going into wet conditions. With no Sunny, with no Zydox in Q3, it will get easier. I think Gaben will have an easier time, and I don't think he'll be caught in as much difficulty as he would have done. Gaben has to be the favourite for pole right now, so he's just going to go to the end of the circuit. Sorry, Mancho is going to go to the end of the circuit. This is not Gaben for the record. Mancho is just getting the last bit of practice out. Monty also on the track, so none of these drivers need to do anything right now. They're just getting their last bit of practice in, adjusting to the setup, because they have to reconcile the dry or wet setup with the changing conditions of the track. When the clock hits 0, which it is about to, our drivers are going to have that one final lap to set. Monty's going to go into the box, so Mancho will close off our session.
Yeah, and that's it about Q2. A little bit less dramatic than we wanted it to be. I mean, probably the drivers are happy that made it into Q3 without really having to push hard for it. We as viewers and commentators obviously are a little bit disappointed. But let's see, hopefully Q3 will give us a little bit more spice, or who knows, even the race, because the wets are always interesting. Yes, production as if you can see the tires, it would be nice to see them real quick. Yeah, as I expected, everybody on the softs, because I mean, most likely it's gonna be in the wet. I was actually surprised Mancho was for a short amount of time on the mediums. That was when he actually spun into a wall. But he switched back onto the softs. Also, a real quick topic I wanted to mention, when you said that we only have 12 drivers and usually we have more. I think we have some more drivers, probably some of you guys also saw it at the bottom, that will join us starting with the race. They're just not here for qualifying. One of them being, I think, Hodgson and Glenn. But I cannot confirm that. I don't know if you can confirm this.
Yeah, definitely can't confirm as well, Pyro. We've got strong rumours that Glenn, Hodgson, and also World Championship leader Sonny will be joining us, bringing us to a total of 15 drivers for the race. All 3 are currently in Discord, are in voice comms at the moment, so strong signs that they will be joining us. Sonny obviously will add a new dimension to any race that he's in. Hodgson and Glenn are 2 of the drivers that have not retired at any point this season, as still brought up on the desk. Hodgson not having missed a race either, giving him a perfect 13 out of 13 points record. So kudos to those guys. They will definitely change things, especially because they will be starting from the back. Bleeze and Zydox already in P11 and P12 as locked by the Q2 standings. We'll have Sonny, Glenn, and Hodgson, who are very strong drivers, behind even them. So it might lead to a few squeezed situations or overtakes in those first few laps. Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. We still have a smaller grid than usual, but I think I kind of like it in this situation. It adds to that effect of most drivers are going to get points. Every retirement matters. It's much easier if you have an incident like Gaben did where your wing comes off. It's much easier to go from absolutely nothing to getting points based on either a safety car or some really good driving in the second half of the race. Going to be fantastic.
Yeah, 0 to 0 or 0 to hero. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about this as well. Also, while you pointed that one out, and to really touch on about before we get our first really timed in laps, we always see the drivers go out on their out lap. Sunny and Zydox both start from the back. Sunny because he wasn't here in qualifying. Yeah, and Zydox because he had that incident in Q2. And going from anywhere between last week and this week. I don't know how much these 2 drivers like each other, since in Mexico we had a small incident between those 2, which caused last lap, last 3 corners, I think, drama, that saw them both fight for the win, and caused Sunny to end up in a barrier, and Zydox was a 10-second penalty given later by the stewards. So both of them start at the back, and we usually say Glenn and Brandon are the ones we have to watch out for because of collisions and anything. But I honestly think now we also have to watch for those 2 because they also start from the back. Obviously, they want to make the way past the whole grid as quickly as possible to the top and fight for whoever's getting the podium, whoever who's getting the pole today. And fight for the win. But I can see it being a little bit of a bad blood between those two. And it could add to either a little bit of spice in the race situation or a little bit more drama depending. I prefer spice because I don't want to see them just crash out and not amount to anything, or maybe even take somebody with them. I'm interested to see what happens between those two. But no, neither of those two are in qualifying 3 right now. Let's see how the one in Q3 are gonna end up and who is gonna get the pole position today. Who is gonna be the runner-up. Likely is gonna be Starty Gaben and something who will be fighting for the pole position. Anybody else can surprise me. I'm here for it. I think you're also here for it. If anybody steps up and surprises us with a performance, a stellar performance, I think no one is saying no to that, and maybe even a more interesting race. And we see Gaben, I don't know why I'm saying his whole name suddenly, just making it into Sector 2, being the first one, maybe given even a little bit of a toe to Franklin behind him. And I think going out from his time is gonna be most likely the time we can expect the others that they wanna beat, if he doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, well said. Gaben is definitely the benchmark. He's got last week's pole position to continue the streak of. He's going to defend that streak of pole positions. So without jinxing him too much, we're hoping he removes the salty and goes for the Gaben. Don't think he'll go for the gap that he had last week. I don't think he'll pull 1.1 seconds on the grid. But his 2 biggest competitors, Sunny and Zydox, are out the way. In Q2, I talked about a sort of speedrun effect where drivers would want to get out as quickly as possible to set the fastest possible times before the rain started falling. We didn't actually see any rain falling in Q2, so that goes forward to Q3. Before we see the rainfall, drivers are going to have the fastest possible conditions. Gaben has set a 1:31.4. If rain starts falling, that will probably be the fastest lap, but our drivers will still be able to get around that first circuit. Let's see how those times roll in. Mancho could have taken that last corner a bit better. He's 0.3 off the pace at the moment. We have got Dormin coming around, and that's going to be a few Alpines behind him. Dormin comes through to the finish line. He is 0.8 back, so let's go 1:32. We've got Whopper in there, and we've got Monty in there. As you said, Sandro, we have sort of a toe effect. Both of the Alpines are together. The McLarens, before an incident for Wilder at the end of Sector 1, were together as well. So that will raise a nice tactical question later on.
Ooh.
Shadow has retired. We have our first retirement of Q3. So 10 becomes 9. That's not quite the Spice Girls songs, but it'll do. Yeah, it's to the left after turn 1, so it looks like a bit of oversteer. His car is almost facing back where it came from, so just shows how much his car rotated, how much the chassis went from forward to backward, and that is terminal damage. So Whopper is going to have 1.3 off the pace. That's about a 132.7. Our drivers are going to have to beat that time still. Shadow won't be able to improve because his car is currently an omelette, but he still has the position on the drivers below him. So nice little gauntlet being thrown down. Sucks for anyone who has that happen to them. Shadow will take no further part in this session.
Yeah, very unfortunate for him. I mean, he will probably hope that no one is able to beat his time, which I highly doubt because Santa invalidated his first hand lap. Not sure when he invalidated, so he might have enough battery to just go straight for another timed lap, which if he trusted telemetry, is currently on a purple sector 2, which could be very interesting and challenging for the top position. Also, Mithy has not set a time lap yet, so 2 drivers who we don't know where they'll be lining up on the grid yet. Where we see Sumter coming around the corner now, taking it just a little bit almost close to the edge, and only P3, half a second behind Menchor and 7/10, almost 8/10 behind Gaben. Gaben showing here again that he put in the time and he's not one to just made fun of. He's not one to that you can beat that easily here. But I mean, the other drivers, apart from Shadow Hopper, obviously, are gonna try and still change for that one. And Mithy is interestingly still in the pits.
Yeah, it tends to be the way to go in Q3, to make a pit stop in the middle of the session. But as you pointed out, Miffy is in the pits from the start of the session, so either AFK, IRL emergency, or some interesting conclusion that we'll have to draw another time because Somtha is currently going at 2 miles an hour, run out of fuel. We'll bring you more updates to this critical situation 4 minutes later when he finally gets in the box. He's going to get out of the way of that speedy McLaren who's coming down the back. That is Wilder, who's looking to improve from his slower time. Benjamin Danklin is going through at 1.4 off the pace. He's in P7 at the moment. Franklin is kind of surprising me with how well he's driven this season. Hasn't got higher than P5 yet, but he's consistently achieved about 7-8 finishes inside those points. Lowest finish P11. So Franklin is very much setting up to be a known quantity. It's his task this season to sort of improve that, keep the keep the precision, but make the accuracy higher up the table. So yeah, Franklin with a lot of work to do.
Oh.
He can. Did he just do that?
How did nothing break on his car? Oh, I would have instant DNF.
Oh man, that's a Glenn move right there. To be honest, that's a you move from Abu Dhabi as well. But we don't say that one.
I was about to say, it happens to me every time in Abu Dhabi. So far, I have 100% DNF rate in Abu Dhabi just because I cannot enter the pit lane, and I mean it literally. I think apart from I think season 2, season 1, I don't know when we did it still for banter and didn't really get that competitive. After being more competitive, I suddenly didn't manage to get the Abu Dhabi entrance anymore, and always DNF'd. I don't know. Apparently, I just gave that ability or inability to my teammates in McLaren now, which is not good because it does not help anybody. But luckily, he did not retire.
Yeah, Franklin making a better entrance to the pit lane there. Miffy on his outlap at the moment. We're going to have a look at Dormin, who's coming up to the start line for the start of his time lap. I've heard on the pre-show a lot of praise towards Red Bull and AlphaTauri as a constructor. Between them, they are all top 8 in the World Drivers' Championship. Mancho the lowest, P8 on 74 points. The AlphaTauris together on 97 points. And Hodgson leading the Red Bull constructor and project by 133 points, 4th. So Dormin has done very well this season. His best result is a giant shining P1 in the Circuit of the Americas in round 12, but has also tasted podium glory twice in Australia and Austria. So yeah, he's becoming a very complete driver, has the strategy calls, impressed me a lot, and is now sort of knocking on the door of the podium of qualifying. You don't get a podium for qualifying, but he's breaking into that top 3 if he can improve by a few tenths. Let's see how he does here. Just on the non-technical part now, a lot of acceleration, a lot of rubber being burned down that straight. The gap to Somtha in P3 is 0.15 of a second. Generally speaking, it's about the apexes in this part of the track, so it's still dry. He's got the soft tyres on. I think he's still got a pretty fast setup on. Lights up Sector 2 purple, which is always impressive, or a game bug, one of 2. Gets a really nice apex to the left here and sets himself up really well. That exit is so crucial because you're pretty much flat out for the next 5-6 seconds. You need to get the best start to that section. Finally, take these 2 apexes here. Oh, I don't think that was great from the reverse angle of that camera. I think he could have clipped in a bit further on that first corner. But let's see, the proof is in the pudding, and he has improved. Now 3 tenths clear of Somtha, and really in the battle with Mancho for that second spot in qualifying. Gaben still leads.
Yeah, and oh no, we see Miffy with an invalidated lap, meaning he has. Where is he on the track? Okay, he just has enough time to go around once more and do another timed lap. But now everybody is out. Everybody gets out on an out lap. It's the final minute to challenge that position, to improve on your time. At this point, you don't even care if you crash. You're all or nothing, because even if you crash now, the only downside is that you cannot improve anymore. But well, you can still race in the race later on. And we still have the drives, meaning every time or every car on this track can still improve a lot. They just have to have enough battery, enough mentality to make it around this track. Most hardest part I think here is Sector 3 because it's a little bit more technical. And I think I saw even Dormin pulling out a faster Sector 1 and Sector 2, just losing a little bit of time in Sector 3. And I think that's going to be the challenge for anybody. And Gaben obviously trying to improve on his time. Dormin, I think, is either charging for his next lap or just letting everybody by it since he's done his last lap. We will see who will pass the checkered flag and can get another time in before we see the final results. Let's see. Monty, 3, 2, 1. I think he made it. Okay. Did Miffy make it? Or who was behind? I think it was Dormin who made it.
Yeah, it looks like everyone started the final lap on time. Wilder getting through as well. So Shadowhopper has already retired. Our remaining 9 drivers on the final laps. Somtha has an invalid lap. He will not be improving, so is going to stay in P4 at the moment. 0.77 behind our leader, Salty Gaben. 131.4 is the time to beat. That will be Somtha's session over. Let's have a look at Miffy. He's going around Sector 3. Will be coming thick and fast like Homer Simpson in a Ferrari with all these drivers coming around Q3. Miffy coming around the final 2 turns. Not set a time on the board yet. Let's see if he can do anything here. Here we go. Coming around, there's a little wiggle as he gets straight. Well, that's a 132.6. That's enough for P5. Beats Whopper. We do have a yellow flag later on in the circuit. I believe it was the Alpine of Monty. Gaben is going to improve on his time. 131.0. We've got Mancho coming through. He improves by nearly 4/10. Franklin is going to do the same here and get himself up into P5 behind Somtha. We've got a McLaren following around the corner. It's the McLaren of Maka. He's got 3/10 improvement as well. Leaps Franklin just behind Somtha here. So Dormin and Wilder are the only 2 drivers yet to set a time. Monty had a little spinner Chelly. We have Wilder coming around the circuit now. It's looking at least fairly quick. Looks to be competitive unlike his previous time. I want to see if he can get the right apex on these final few corners. Dormin is going to be 10 seconds behind him. The last 2 drivers who can influence their position here. 133.6. It's only enough for P10 at the moment. Dormin, the last driver who can make a difference, is invalid. Won't be able to improve. So that is Gaben, 2nd pole position in a row. Mancho P2, Dormin P3 at the start of the race. Somtha, Maka, Franklin, Miffy, the 2 Alpines of Whopper and Monty, and finally Wilder, all within 2.6 seconds. That is the qualifying complete here at the Circuit of the Americas for round 14. And Gaben the God has descended, and as if on cue, the heavens will likely open for the start of this race. We're set to have heavy rain at the start of the race. It will lighten up about 2/3 of the way through if forecasts are correct, and we're set to have a dry race finish, but this is VLF1, anything could happen. Well played, Gaben.
Yeah, very well played from Gaben. Now he has to prove himself that he is not just a qualifying driver, he can improve on or actually get that aggressiveness, that pace in the race as well. It's everything for him to lose. Mancha also very, very impressive. He was 3/10 behind, almost 4/10 behind Gaben's time. I mean, Gaben was just too fast today. The Aston Martin of Gaben is either too good or he just practiced better. Maybe the car setup, who knows? But like you said already, we have a wet race, and wet races tend to level the playing field a little bit, and every driver to be a little bit more careful or being a little bit more chaotic. One of those 2 is gonna happen, and because it's VLF1, everything can happen. Sadly, this game does not have red flags, so without any spoilers, or some spoilers, minor spoilers. I think if I didn't have said that,
it's okay.
We just leave it at that.
I think Blaze covered it enough, and yeah, I already know the end result of who's going to win the World Drivers' Championship IRL. I think everyone else does as well. We just haven't seen it happen yet. It's like the Juventus scandal in the 1990s and 2000s. But enough about that. We've got the end of qualifying. 12 drivers competed. Our drivers are now getting ready for the race. We think we will have Sonny, Hodgson, and Glenn joining. I don't know at this point whether it will be decided on reverse championship order. So that is Glenn in front of Hodge, in front of Sonny, or in order of joining, or in order of who has the earliest birthday. I can't give you that info at this stage, but they will be our 3 drivers at the back if they make it. Blaze and Zydox will be just ahead of them, but we'll give you a full grid rundown later on. I just want to reflect on how powerful Gaben is. He's not lighting up the World Drivers' Championship. Indeed, he hasn't even won a race this season. Has 4 second places, but hasn't got that dub yet. Has 101 points, but it seems to be on a real burn right now. Got 2 pole positions in the last 2 races. What are we thinking, Sandro? Do you reckon he can take the win today?
I mean, it's another wet race, and I think he wants to make up for for Mexico. And to be fair, he doesn't have to fear as much. If he has a clean start, I can see him win this one. It's just his to lose. Mancher's obviously trying his best to challenge that P1, but let's be honest. I think Gaben at his peak today cannot be challenged because he will just pull away and drive his own race, while everybody else will probably fight for that P2 and P3. And I think that there's a high chance because even Sunny and Cyrox, who usually are faster in than Gaben, are starting from the back of the grid. So that means, if I'm not mistaken, and I think just give confirmation from race direction that behind Cydox there's gonna be Sunny, Hodge, and Glenn who will start. We will have the final rundown later on. But those 2 are usually always up there, and they're not today. That's the perfect conditions for Gaben. And like I said, I think it could be just his to lose. Mancha is close to that though. I don't want to disregard that one because it is 4/10s, but we can also say only 4/10s.
Yeah, Mancho is on the form of his life at the moment. He's kind of like a mini Gaben, because Gaben hasn't won yet, but he's achieved P2 a few times. Mancho hasn't won or finished P2 yet, but he's been on the podium twice. He's been 4th 3 times, and he's on quite a run of consistency right now, because for the first time in this season, he scored 3 points finishes in back-to-back races. Sao Paulo, Circuit of the Americas with the 100% challenge, and now Mexico. So Mancho is on a tear. He scored 2 podiums, and they've been the last 2 races. So if form is anyone's guide, Mancho has the best relative form in the entire league. I expect him to do really well. He's obviously put down a real marker in qualifying, pushed Gaben to the line, so he's showing all of the potential portents. We are now going to confirm the grid order for today's race in the United States, the Circuit of the Americas round 14. So let's have a look. At the front, we've got Gaben and Mancho. I'll take the first row, Pyro. You take the next one. We'll alternate. Gaben smashing qualifying, and Mancho pushing him very close.
Yeah, like you said, behind them we have Dormin and Santa. Santa really unfortunate towards the end that he didn't get another time lap because of the invalidation. Dormin with a nicely timed in P3.
Quietly behind them, Maka and Franklin are performing powerfully. They were 1.2, 1.4 seconds off Gaben, but clean Q3 finishes.
Yeah, behind them we have the car of Miffy and Shadowhopper, both of them also really close together, and P7 and P8.
Rounding off our top 10 for the start of today's race, Monty and Wilder, who had a few issues in Q3, but did post fairly competitive times, quite a stacked grid in that session.
Yeah, and just about missing out on Q3, and with a little bit of unfortunate, we have Blaze, Homewrecker, Brandon, and Zydox, who both DNF'd in Q2 and had no time. Very, very unfortunate for them too, and they will probably try to make it up in the race.
And we'll see what Sunny and Hodgson can do. They haven't featured on our screens yet. They're joining, not in qualifying, they're joining for the race first time. Sunny bribing the officials to get ahead of Hodgson and Glenn.
Yeah, and at the back of the grid we have Glenn, who also didn't attend qualifying, but will try to make his way up into the points, if not even thread the needle and go for the top 5 position, because we know sometimes he can be up there, and when he's on a really, really good day, he has the pace. Not sure about USA, not sure about the rain, but as you can see in the background already, it is raining. It is confirmed. We're starting on the wets. Now the question is, wets or intermediates? That I do not know. I think it was a full wets.
It certainly looks that way, Pyro, because you can see the rain heavily falling. I have somewhere the session forecast, Posted by race director / points aficionado Brandon. He's confirmed that the start of the race is going to be heavy rain. So that's the indicator from the game engine. Of the 7-panel race forecast, the first 4 panels are all heavy rain. Generally, that's the first 2/3 of the race. It's 28 laps today, so you're looking at about 15, 20 laps under heavy rain. You've then got 1 panel of light rain and then 2 panels of cloudy, overcast, but dry conditions. So if that goes to plan for today's 50% race, then we will see 2 windows where drivers will be changing tyres. From wets to intermediates as heavy goes to light rain, and from intermediates to dry, slick tyres as the light rain recedes to dry weather. So all of that tends to be governed by the in-game race engineer, who we lovingly call Jeff. Generally, my advice to drivers would be when they're on the long straight, use the weather report feature in game. The in-game race engineers will be telling them whether it's whether there is a weather change coming up, at what point the crossover point will happen, and whether they should pit in the upcoming lap. So that timing is going to be really crucial. We saw in Mexico last week that Shadowhopper and Blaze made the earliest switches from wet to dry tyres, but it was too early because they had spins, they had issues, and then they had to come back into the pits. That could have been Dorman instead of Shadow. But yeah, if you come in too late, that means that you'll be outstripped by the drivers on the dry tyres, as they'll be able to compete in the dry conditions faster than you. So it's a real battle. You're driving the line between spinning out due to low traction versus overheating. You're also riding the line between getting the right traction for the right conditions versus being able to beat the drivers on the inferior tyre for speed. So that's going to be our chief battle later in the race. At the start, Pyro, I think it's just going to be a battle to stay in line, make sure that the setup is correct and you're driving consistently, especially the case for our drivers who haven't been in Q3 or haven't had any practice, and just make sure you don't retire. Keep yourself in the running and then let the Jeff strategy calls sort things out.
Yeah, and I think if turn 1 is gonna go smoothly, the more interesting, like you said, is gonna be the tire strategy later on. Which, to be fair, I love listening to you talk about it, because when I used to drive, I honestly just zoomed around the track, and whenever there was a tire change or strategy change, I just thought it at that moment. I just created the strategy at that point. Beforehand, I was just driving around the track, not giving it a single thought or anything about that. So it's always impressive listening to you and all that strategy and all what you could watch out for. I love this one. I just used to just zoom around, and whatever happens, it happens.
glad
you're right.
you like it, Pyro. Yeah, there's a lot of strategy that goes into it, and most of the strategy that I've come in with, it's a combo of being in the Merc call with Calm and Blaze and listening to Travis a lot while he talks to me about setup. So I've learned from the real goats in the scene. We'll throw Flyer in there as well. And I think the best examples have just been races where I think Rock did it first, where there was a safety car on the point of a weather change. And even though it was too early to go from wet to dry tyres, Rock came in 2 or 3 laps early, came out on the dry tyres, span around behind the safety car. But by the time the safety car period had ended and the safety car came in, he was on the right tyres for the right conditions and just sped away while everyone else still had to pit. So I think that's the peak skill. One thing that we didn't get to talk about in the pre-show was the safety car rate. We've got fewer drivers today, so it's less likely we'll have a safety car incident. We've got drivers who are more experienced in the season, more experienced with their setups. But then on the flip side, we've had safety cars every race for the last 10. Double safety cars in, I think, 8 of those. And we've got 2 DNFs in dry conditions in Q2. So literally anything could happen. My money is on the safety car. So if you know how to deal with safety cars and weather condition changes with the pit timing, then that's half the battle today.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you on that one. And interesting to that is gonna be, like you said, we had a lot of safety cars in a lot of races already. Are the drivers trying to maybe underfuel a car, given also the fact that on the wet you usually already underfuel your car a little bit, as you don't wanna get tire spin, and usually less power from the tire onto the tarmac gives you less tires spin and the car spin, and that sentence was interesting. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what the tires are, the drivers. I mean, the tires surely are just gonna rotate, but what the drivers are gonna do. Will be interesting to see who will take the P1. Also, we cannot forget that it's USA, and turn 1 is they need to be very careful not to spill their cowboy heads there, because this corner is sharper than a rattlesnake's tooth and it's going uphill, so you don't even see where you're heading towards. And we saw in real life a lot of drivers catching themselves out, and happened in the past as well. It happened certainly to me sometimes where I missed the breaking point. Will be interesting to see what happens today, if there's gonna be a huge pileup in lap 1 or not, while we get ready for the formation lap in the background. And then we will see if everybody's on the wet tire, or maybe even somebody on the intermediates. Who knows? I mean, you can get friskies at some points. But I think everybody's on the wet and ready to do some racing. I'm mostly interested to see if we got every driver in it, including Glenn, Hodgson, Sunny, and the likes. But by the looks of it, it does look like it. And Hodgson being actually last, Glenn being 13th. Interesting.
Oh my god, yeah, we've got 15 drivers, so Glenn, Sunny, and Hodgson. They got to watch qualifying. Hopefully they can learn some lessons from various performances. And Glenn and Zydox already DQ'd. So Zydox's record joins, gets into Q2 by default, crashes out on lap 1, gets into the race, goes to the back by default, immediately gets Glenned and has to start with cold tires. It's going to be glorious. We have a shout from production that everyone is on the wet tires, so adapting directly to the heavy rain. We're not going to have a battle where some people are on softs, some are on mediums. The wet tires have the lifespan of hard tires. They are the most durable tires in the game alongside the hard tires. So it's quite likely that drivers could try and finish the race on the single set of wet tires. The only thing that will stop that happening is if drivers want to do a one-stop, or more likely if the rain stops, which is going to be forecast to be the case 2/3 of the way through. You can see the spray from the tyres of the driver in front, that's Dormin on Somther. You can see the rain in the background. You can see all of the inclement conditions affecting our drivers. And you could also see it from the way that we had Mancho taking the scenic route to the first corner. So we're going to probably see a lot of sliding. Be prepared for a lot of issues where drivers don't have the traction where they need, where the braking zone is a lot longer because of the poor traction in the wet conditions. Sunny and Hodgson just forming up the rear of this train as they go around this formation lap before 28 laps in the multiverse of madness here at the Circuit of the Americas. Gaben has got 2 pole positions in a row, lots of expectations on his shoulders to lead the strategy and to lead by pace. He's got an easier field behind him. Sunny and Zydox having to fight from the back. Zydox having to fight from the line after getting DQ'd, so a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Gaben has come up with several finishes this season that are very good, come up with second place a few times. This may be his chance to get P1 for the first time this season, for I believe the 4th time overall. Mancho and Dormin are going to push them. Red Bull looking very strong. Somther, of course, looking for a first win as well. A lot of combining narratives here. I just want to see if we have a good race and we have drivers pushing each other closely. Drivers now forming up at the end of the formation lap. We're going to be having Gaben lead this out when the lights go out. And as Pyro mentioned, turn 1 might be a bit treacherous to the left. I'll take the snake's tooths aside. Teeth, if you will. We've got a McLaren coming up to finish the formation. Drivers getting back onto their grid spaces. Going to have to high-five Glenn and Zydox as they go past after they disqualified each other. And Pyro, this one's all yours, my friend.
Thank you very much. Interesting to see as well that the McLaren already spun on the formation lap. I hope they can do better in the race. All right, everybody is ready to go. We are just waiting on the lights. Yeah, there's the McLaren that just gets onto the grid. Perfect. Everybody is ready. We see the lights. 2, 3, 4. The 5th light is on. And it's a long light. And away we go. There we go. Oh, I think actually Mencha got a far better start than Gaben did, and he's on the inside. And we see the 4th time in pit stop, Sergi. Thank you very much. And Mencha actually got on the inside, and he's making it wave through. I can see Maka also making waves on a lot of drivers taking a little bit more the outside route, not to crash anybody. A fairly clean first corner. Mencha leading this race. Gaben third, Gaben second, Sumter third. The Maka car stayed in 5th, Domin losing a position, or a lot of up and downs, no crashes so far. Everything went pretty smoothly. The biggest loser so far is Wilder, who lost 5 positions, which is quite unfortunate, but nothing major so far. Mencha and Gaben seem to already have pulled a gap to Sumter, but it's not a lap yet. And Sumter is back to that 1 second. We do not have DRS here as well, just as a quick reminder for everybody. It is the DRS is disabled, and we see a car spin. It's Blaze.
Yeah, put your hands up, Blaze. You've had a little spinachini. You can already see the Mercedes debris to the left-hand side of that straight. It's a humbling experience, my friend, but you're going to have to move on. I think that's probably going to require some bodywork repairs, so into the pits with a new wing for this man. It is green flag, so he is going to have the full pit time, about 25 seconds. And for another set of wets, Mancho's still leading after a great move on turn 1. Zydox going around the outside here. He's performed very well, already taking, I believe it's 5 positions from 12 up to 7. Coming around towards Miffy. I really am impressed by anyone who can take 5 positions on an opening lap. And Zydox certainly does have the pedigree to back it up. Coming towards the final few corners here are field. Glenn and Hodge still trundling along, Wilder dropping back slightly. Mancho with the fastest lap. And we'll see if Gaben can push him close here at this opening corner, turn 1. We've got Gaben hitting a really nice apex, but stays behind Mancho for now. Gaps opening behind them to Somther, to Dormin, and to Maka and Miffy behind them. Zydox really our standout star of the first lap. And we'll see how our drivers handle this first sector. It's difficult enough in the dries, it's even more difficult in the wets. You can't go flat out through any section. You have to go for the high braking zones. You have to really treat this carefully. And any quick readjustment, which you have to do if you get the section wrong, is going to lead to a spin or a loss of traction. So high pressure moment for these drivers. We've got Hodgson following Wilder around here. This is the last part of the S's. And Wilder is in a Glenn Hodge sandwich right now. Sonny equally burning up the field. He's in P10 and looking close to Franklin.
Yeah, and like you said, Zydox making up 5 positions that early on. It was kind of expected from him. I expected Sonny to do the same. He but he gained 4 positions so far, sitting P10 behind Franklin. Well, we see that battle at the back, Wilder, Hodgson. I think Wilder here making a position onto Glenn. Very nice. Staying on the inside, braking quite early. Glenn went straight ahead. Where is he? Oh, there he is. But Hodgson also taking an advantage of that overtake. He cannot make it stick. Glenn keeps that position for now. Very, very interesting battle. Very clean so far. I very much enjoyed this one. Glenn with a big snap there, giving Hodgson that position. So that was a short-lived fight. I don't know if he has damage. It looks like he has very much trouble turning in that corner. Not sure if it's maybe set up because I can see complete front wing.
Oh, is he going to do it again? He's made it, Sandro. He got into the pit lane without hitting it. Well done, Glenn. There's character growth, there's a redemption arc. He realizes Blaze felt lonely at the back, so he's going to go join him. So there we go. Mancho's retired. What's this?
What happened there?
He was our front runner, and it's going to be a VSC on track, so drivers limited to a delta. If they go over it, they will get punished with a drive-through penalty. Mancho was leading the race and was heading off of Gaben. In Sector 1, it looks like a couple of turns into the sector. He's lost control of his car, careered off to the right, and there we go. That's how easy terminal damage is. So Mancho, after a brilliant qualifying performance, on the form of his life after 2 podium finishes in the last 2 races, is not going to score points today. He is out of the running, leaving 14 drivers in the race. And that's going to be brilliant news for Gaben, who is not racing directly against Sunny or Zydox, now doesn't have Mancho behind him. Gaben is just finding that all the stars are aligning for him.
Yeah, and that's so sad. because I felt like that would have been a nice fight between Mencho and Gaben. But like you said, it is so easy to lose it here. Not just only because the track in itself is sometimes very slippery in the dry, it's also raining, so it becomes even more slippery. And even if you have just that one moment where you're not cautious enough, or just don't think too much about it, get maybe a little bit too much oversteer, and you're suddenly in the barrier, and well, that's your race gone. VSC ended. We got back onto the way. Sunny is still in that battle between Franklin, Shadowhopper, and behind him Monty. And that's all for P7 so far. Franklin is holding them back very, very nicely. Ahead of them is Smithy, but he has a 2.2 second gap. And like you said, Gaben so far is enjoying this because he already has almost a 4 second gap to Sumter. And Zydox is another 4 positions down. And while I say that Zydox is making up the position on Maka, very nice and easy. On the inside, Maka is not fighting for that position too much, as he knows this is not his fight to take for today. Further back, Glenn unfortunately doesn't have a Spinnerino, probably just so Brandon can catch up to him more easily. But those two have a fight back there, or trying to have a fight back there. The fight here, Zydox is now on the back of Dormin. Probably Dormin will also release him pretty quickly, as he's also not the one he has to fight for. I think Dormin is fighting for that P3 today, and it is not against Zydox, it is against Maka. And oh my god, Wilder, no.
Yeah, hometown hero Wilder, not having a fun time there, and there it is, a full safety car. We have had a safety car every race for the last 10. I think we've actually had one every race this season. This is round 14, and it's not going to disappoint us again. I thought it would be later on. I personally don't see anyone changing their tyres at this juncture. The safety car allows... Oh, and that's Whopper retiring. Let's see if we can get a closer look at that one. We're going to see him. He's off to the right, and he was on track there. I'm not sure how that happened. It looks like potentially a collision between two drivers on the last part of that straight. That is in the braking zone for that left-hander. But yeah, lots of incidents there. We've got Wilder losing a lot of his wing, going the wrong way on track, causing a safety car with the debris. And then Whopper retiring in the middle of that safety car. So Wilder is going to have to pit. Any other drivers with wing damage should pit right now. As for tyre strategy, drivers shouldn't really care about tyres. They should just keep the wet tyres on. If you have no need to pit, it's worth just keeping the wets on. They are the equivalent lifespan of hard tyres. If you have 4-lap old hards on, you keep them on for most of the race, and drivers will continue to do that, I'm sure. Yeah, it just shows how treacherous this race is today. We had 2 retirements in Q2. We had a retirement in Q3 with Whopper. Whopper is going to keep up his unlucky streak by retiring in the race, joining Mancho in the realm hereafter and the afterlife, shaking off this mortal coil. Wilder in the box, and we have 13 drivers left, so it feels like a countdown that we're going to be continuing for most of this race. As if there are fewer than 10 drivers on the track, then you're pretty much guaranteed points, so great news for our remaining drivers. Glenn and Blaze were far adrift of the field. They will now get to close the distance as the safety car brings everyone back together.
Yeah, and the one that is probably not happy about this one is Gaben, as he has his whole gap nullified now. Sumter is right back behind him again. But I have no doubt into that. I think the biggest threat coming is Zydox, who is already in Q4 and was fighting his way really, really quickly up ahead. And interestingly, Sunny is still behind Franklin. So either Sunny is taking it a little bit more cautious because of the rain, or Franklin is putting an amazing job out there and defending that P7 from Sunny so far. And I just go for the fact that Franklin is probably just that much of a beast right now. He's defending Sunny. It creates a much more interesting scenario in my head, and that's why I go for that one.
Yeah, Franklin the Beast is going to get another chance after the safety car goes. Franklin has been performing fairly well this season. He's got a few points finishes, looking for that consistency, looking to keep finishing in that sort of P6 area. So in an all-right position right now. Whopper leaves the session to go and play League of Legends, but it's not too important for our remaining drivers. With 5 laps in, the safety car is on its first lap, and it will be there for potentially another 2 laps. Personally, I think Blaze will catch the safety car on the next lap, lap 6. The real effect that this is going to have, the race is going to last longer during the early section, which means that if the rain is due to recede after 30 minutes, then rain receding is going to happen at an earlier stage of the race. Long story short, instead of heavy rain going to light rain after 20 laps, this safety car might now cut it to 18 or 19. So drivers will have to consider the strategy change a bit earlier. It may even bring that later strategy change of light rain to dry conditions into play. So more safety cars means more strategy later on. It sucks for Gaben. It's great for anyone who was far at the back like Glenn or Blaze, and great for anyone who needs wing damage repairs like Wilder. Zydox and Sunny are still way in the field. They started in P12 and P13 respectively. They have gained 8 positions for Zydox, 5 for Sunny. That's 13 positions in total. Another 3 and 6, another 9 positions will get them into a 1-2 position. And then that would be everyone's most boring race combo, unless you really like collisions on the last lap. # Mexico. But yeah, a lot has already changed in these 6 laps. We're hopefully set for some more stellar racing when Blaze catches up, and when the safety car goes away, Gaben gets to play poker with the field.
Yeah. Also, what I just reminded, or what just got in my head, I don't know how to say that one. But yeah, when there was qualifying, I saw something validating that one lap, and he was actually half a second up on his lap. I don't know what would have put it in. I don't know if it would have been second place, maybe third, but meaning he technically has more pace in him. He's in P2 right now, behind Gaben, making up the 2 positions. Okay, one given from Mention just DNFing. But the other one is he's up there behind Gaben, and he's showing in qualifying he technically has the pace. So I don't know, it will be interesting to see if there's maybe something happening. And while I say that, everybody caught up, the safety car is coming in this lap. Gaben now dictates this pace and decides when it's time to go again after the safety car, went back into the pits and probably tries to catch Santa off guard so that Santa has a little bit more of a hard time overtaking him. Santa obviously trying the same with Dorman and everybody that likes behind them, while the cars behind them trying to do the same with the cars in front of them. We will see. The safety car is still not quite in yet. Gaben is actually not slowing down that much as I thought so. But that's probably for the best, especially in the rain, keeping a certain pace. But the safety car is in now. Let's see when Gaben says it is time to race again. And I think that is the goal. He just took the corner. Really, really nice. Santa did not get him go away. He's still remaining pretty close. Everybody, I think Zydox is actually the one making a move on Dorman here. He did not give an inch to Dorman, and he actually makes that move stick, and he's up to P3, 7 laps in, and he's already close to that P1. So don't count Zydox out yet. Behind that one, we have no changes in the positions. I said Hodgson overtakes Monty. That is very, very close. Everybody's still close together. Very, very interesting to see what will happen. Sunny obviously still has to overtake Franklin. Is probably a little bit frustrated because if he has the information, given that Gaben is in P1 and probably is giving him that information, he knows that Zydox already made up his way to P3, and Sunny cannot help us his teammate or even be close to that podium position because he still has to overtake 6 cars at least to get to that podium position.
Yeah, Sunny is 15 points clear at the top of the World Drivers' Championship. So his first goal is just to beat everyone, but if he has to beat someone in particular, it is that man Zydox who is challenging his crown at the top of WDC. Zydox being within fighting distance of P1, got something in his sights, and it looks like he's got even better pace than Gaben at the moment. It's worrying news. We see a yellow flag at the back. That's going to be Blaze, who's given us all a twirl at the middle point of Sector 2. Going to get right back in the race. Potential wing damage, but definitely a loss of time to be back off the pack. Sunny and Zydox are mounting the attacks. Zydox obviously took Dorman on the first corner after the safety car restart. Sunny is with Franklin now. Franklin's put up quite a nice bit of battling. It is easier to defend in wet conditions because you can't make those sudden double, triple movements. But yes, you have to give credit to Franklin for the way he's defended so far. I don't think it's going to last much longer though. Sonny appeared to get a better exit there. The Slippy is excellent. Sonny is out to the left-hand side. He will be on the inside of turn 1. He's going to look for a move here. Significantly alongside and clear. Sonny made that stick and now looks forward towards the body of Miffy, the Alpha Tauri second driver. Sonny has made another position and Zydox is also looking close to Somfer as well. These two absolutely eating up the grid right now. Franklin and Hodgson behind Sonny in what could be a close battle in the next few laps. It's starting to spread out a bit, but we still have a few flashpoints. Still heavy rain on the cards, so our drivers still in the full wet tyres. They are the slowest tyres, but they're also the reliable ones you want in these wet conditions. At some point, the drivers will be taking them off and putting on intermediate tyres for light rain, but based on the pre-race forecast, that's still a good 10 laps away yet, or at least the window will be making the crossover point in about 10 laps.
Yeah, and Santa out here still fighting for his life. Zydox is behind him now, but Santa is not one just giving him the position, because I think he is a driver that can prove himself and can defend very well. Also, given the fact that there's no DRS, it's up to Zydox making clean exits, and we don't see quite a lot of these right now. He's fighting the car more than he wants to. Losing obviously then time to Santa, which Santa loves to, and Gaben loves even more because he's exceeding or even getting further away from Gaben, from himself, yeah, sure, from Santa, currently at 3.6 seconds, and the longer Zydox takes to overtake Santa, and the more these two are battling, the further Gaben can pull away. And we see a 3-second time penalty for Wilder and a yellow flag. I think that's Monty, who I think just spun. He doesn't appear to have any front wing damage, so very unfortunate for him. Luckily, maybe no damage to his car, so he can continue moving on. He can join the back row with maybe Brandon, who had also not a very great start to this race so far, and actually went into the pit while I said that, so maybe he had actually the damage. So far, Something's still ahead of Zydox. Let's see if Zydox is gonna make a move anytime soon.
Zydox really close, yeah, 3/10 in it, Sandro. We've got Zydox coming down to a hairpin. This could be a nice place to make a move. Equally, Zydox could use the aerodynamic slipstream effect on the main straight here. Look at the gap between those two cars. If something put his foot on the brake pedal for even a moment, that would cause carnage, collision, and chaos. I'd personally love it, but Zydox is going to make the move as we go down this straight here. The delta is decreasing. The Haas is looking to overtake the Med, and he's going on the outside here. Something will have the lead into this corner. Has Zydox overshot it? All four wheels are going to leave the track there, and Something is going to keep the lead for now. Zydox now has the inside on the second corner of that complex. Something still ahead for now, but Zydox is threatening to be significantly alongside. Something still with the apex here. He's going to make that really cleanly, and that looks to be a good defense for now. Props to Something for defending the position on those few corners.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Paris, how he's defending very, very nice, and it just helps Gaben so much right now. He's 6.4 seconds, 6.5, and they're both heading to the pits, actually.
This is entered. This is where the change gotta be. Yeah, no wing damage there. They're in the pit. Dorman is in there as well, almost the entire field. So the Gaben and Maka from the top field are staying out. They did not get the memo that it's being rapidly distributed to the office of the remaining drivers. Drivers are coming into the box with no wing damage and nothing else, which means it's a strategy change call. The blue wet tyres are coming off. The green intermediate tyres are going on. The in-game race engine Jeff or some other force has led to them changing.
Zydox overtook Something in the pits.
Oh my god.
What? Oh no, this is so frustrating. If it's failed because of the mechanics, and Zydox is probably happy about this, Something must be frustrated. Oh, getting overtaken in the pits is the worst because you cannot even defend yourself from that.
And Maka getting a 3-second as he's still going on the wet tyres. Tyres which the in-game engine Jeff now advises have crossed over are now suboptimal. So the real test will be how far ahead Gaben is, if indeed he is ahead at all. If he goes for an intermediate pit and then re-emerges. Yeah, when most of the field do something at the same time, the wisdom of crowds is normally rewarding. It means that they've done the right thing. So yeah, they're looking for the faster pace. The rain is receding. I thought it would be in the second half of the race, but that safety car and the VSC earlier have certainly slowed things down. It's happening now.
Yeah, and oh my god, unfortunately only my boys in McLaren got penalties so far, and they are the only ones as well on still the wet tires, same with Franklin, Miffy, Gaben, interestingly as well. Still has to pit, will be interesting to see if maybe Zydox can make up the time that Gaben is currently losing while still being on the wets, and judging from the fact that Zydox just made so much time up against Wilder, could either be a case of Wilder taking it easily or the tires being really that much of a difference right now. And I see now everybody else coming into the pits. I guess Wilder is doing the same. He's still staying out.
Wilder is enigmatic. He's off the track and has not come back in. Let's see where Gaben is. He's already at the first corner, so he's a good 3-4 seconds clear of the following runners on the intermediates. So it looks like Gaben actually made the better move there with the overcut. He also has the fresher tyres on the intermediates. However long this section of weather lasts, the game engine suggests that will be about 5-6 laps by the 7-panel forecast. Then Gaben is set to do really well during it. Gaben has the fastest time on the sweatboard on the dry tyres. Let's see if the pace differential continues. We also see Zydox picking up a 3-second time penalty for multiple track extension warnings. So even though Zydox is pushing Gaben, is getting closer to the front, Gaben still has a few cards in the deck. Let's not look at Blaze here. That's just embarrassing. Let's cut away, cut the video. Move to someone else. No, don't look at it. There we go. Didn't happen. Blaze is doing fine halfway at the back. Gaben is still performing remarkably. You can see the expanse behind him on track. Yeah, it's looking fantastic for him. I'm pretty sure the timing stack has an update waiting to happen, but we'll get that at the start of the next lap or sector. Yeah, normally that happens after an interesting safety car incident. Wilder is the only driver yet on track with the wet tyres. Surely he's got the message now to switch, either from Jeff or Maka or Common Sense. But he is holding up Dormin at the moment. Dormin not able to find a place to overtake. Oh, he is going to send it. No post on Sundays, son. And there is contact between the two drivers. Wilder is going to drop behind Dormin and just be ahead of Sonny now. So Sonny getting held up a bit as well. Wilder, you've got to go into the pits, my friend. It's the optimal strategy. Everyone else has done it. Let's see if he makes the move. Don't think there's wing damage, but the important thing is that tyre change. And he is moving off to the side. Is he going to do a Glen? Oh, it looks clean. He's in the pits. Yeah. It's got to be Inters.
Yeah, and it has to be Inters. Who knows? Maybe he thought the track might dry up enough for him to just do wet, maybe onto slicks. But I think that's just not the right choice because it's still raining a little bit and the track is still looking very, very wet. So he's the one that loses the most right now. He's dropping all the way behind. In P12, which is very, very unfortunate because he could have had that point position, but maybe he sacrificed this choice for Maka, as I think they were too close to a double stack, and maybe that's why he actually didn't pit. Who knows? I just hope it was that and not Hodgson's strategy that he maybe caught wind of. Who knows?
Yeah, Hodge strategies for you. He's probably still finishing Mexico. With that said, I keep blaming Hodgson for strategies, as does Checks Notes everyone, but he is the only driver to score points in every race so far this season. Set to continue that streak in the middle of the pack, 7th out of 13th, middle of the road, good on his .500 League of Legends team. He is going to be continuing on his intermediate tyres. Maka ahead of him, Miffy behind. Here he is stuck in the middle with Yo. Let's see if he can do anything here as he gets within a second. Probably just trundle for a bit. He is, after all, ahead of Maka on that 3-second penalty, and is happy just to keep things chill for now.
Yeah, and Zydox actually, now that the timing stack is, it looks like it's back to how it should be, is 7 seconds behind Gaben, and the gap was ever so slightly growing. It was about 6.8 the lap before, it's now at 7. So, either Zydox is taking it easy, as he knows he's now in second and just waits for the dry phase maybe, where he knows he has a little bit more pace, or it's actually just his pace and Gaben is unmatched today. Sonny obviously here in 5th right now is trying to move up the field as quickly as possible as well, while we see a yellow flag in sector 3. Not sure what happened there. Or just nap, I assume. The Ferrari boys here, Glenn and Franklin, both in the points, being 9th and 10 right now. I don't know if there's gonna be any team orders. I assume not. It depends on if anybody of those two is faster. Um, but so far we have here Sunny against Roman. Sunny has to overtake Roman here to get past him. Oh, okay. Brandon a 3-second penalty. I thought it was Somta who got the 3-second. That's why I was hyped for a second. Because meaning if everybody in the top gets a 3-second penalty, it's getting a little bit more interesting. Not because I wish him ill or anything, but you know, because right now only Psydox, Maka, Wilder, and Blaze have the 3-second penalty. This track is also known for giving out a lot of penalties because of track extensions if you're not careful enough. And the wet, sliding a little bit more, and we can get white, unfortunately. But so far, we're riding with Sunny, and Dorming is defending it quite well. We will see now, as soon as we come up to those straights, if he can hold on to that, while instead of Gaben is doing another fastest lap. But he wants to pull away from Zydox, even though he has that 7 seconds. Oh, and Zydox responds, never mind. Zydox responds with another fastest lap, trying to close that gap. Not successful yet so far. And we'll see if Sunny can make it overtake. Roman actually moving from the racing line to not give Sunny that slipstream, which actually either really worked out well or Sunny wasn't trying to begin with. And Zydox another penalty. That is huge.
Yeah, he actually goes behind Somtha here, so Somtha's 5 seconds behind Zydox on track. But after the time stack is resolved, Zydox will be behind Somtha. So yeah, really goes to show how important the track penalties are here. As you said, Pyro, it's a circuit where there are a lot of track extension penalties. And yeah, 3 seconds is massive. It will get even more massive if there are any further safety cars, which will bring the field together. Gaben is just going to love seeing those penalties stack up on his in-game heads-up display. And yeah, Somtha and Dormin are a way back. Zydox is definitely a way back. Sunny's got the only real close delta inside the top 5 at the moment. Dormin's been absolutely performing well here. Sunny's got the slipstream advantage, but Dormin's got the pace. He's performing well, been performing well under pressure. Yeah, so props to Dormin. It's just 2 race winners looking at each other. Dormin after the circuit of the Grand Prix of the Americas after that beautiful finish at the line. So yeah, Sunny probably will take Dormin on the balance of things, but Dormin's making it very difficult. We're on lap 14 of 28. This is the halfway point. Based on the pre-race weather forecast, we're expecting this light rain to stop at some point. We're expecting a cessation of weather conditions, and as a result, our drivers will at some point go from the intermediate tyres onto the slicks. Now, looking at my pre-race notes, the soft tyres will last about 12-13 laps. The medium tyres, 12 laps. The medium tyres will last about 15 laps. So at the moment you could switch to mediums if the rain stopped and it called for it. You probably couldn't switch to softs. In about 2 laps it will get really interesting if that call happens to be made. But yeah, Gaben managed the first one well. He's still the favourite to take home his first win this season. Somtha, Dormin, Zydox, Sunny, they're a very deserving top 5 at the moment, even if Zydox is having a bit of ill discipline on the first sector and a couple of incidents in sector 3 as well.
Yeah, and I think it's most likely gonna be a soft slick, because I cannot see the rain stopping anytime soon, and if it stops it's gonna be towards the end, and it would be not a wise choice to go for the mediums then. And Dormin so far, like you said earlier, is really holding up Sunny, which is really great to see from him, because Sunny is not just any driver, he's a world champion, and holding him up, even if it's the rain, it is really impressive to see. Dormin is not just any force to reckon with. Behind them though, Maka is also gaining on those two, because while these two are fighting, Maka and Hodgson, who's following closely to Maka right now, they're also gained over half a second in the last 2-3 laps. I kind of noticed it a little bit. So the gap is now down to 1.6 seconds, 1.5 close-ish to that one, and they're slowly but steadily gaining, which does not help Sunny or Dormin, because they obviously want to move forwards, not backwards. But yeah, it will be interesting to see because Miffy is currently 3 seconds out. If it's gonna be a 4-way fight, maybe he might join in as well. Further back behind, Franklin is currently 7 seconds behind Miffy. I don't think he's gonna be any threat anytime soon for P8. While Sunny is still stuck behind Dawn for another round. It will be interesting to see, like you said, once we change from these wet conditions to more dry, will be interesting to see who will be the first one to call it in. Probably Blaze will give it a try and give information to Santa, as Santa is currently in P3 and maybe can threaten the needle for P2 as Alex has a 6 second penalty, like I said earlier. So he will probably be the guinea pig for the Mercedes team. Waller probably be the one to try out for Maka, depending when this rain stops, depending when the track dries up. It will be interesting to see. And so far, Domin still defending quite nicely.
Yeah, 0.2 in it, but that was the case 3 laps ago. Domin's put in a really nice defense. Sonny's got really close with his car. Has got into sort of quantum mechanical levels of distance between himself and Sonny and Domin. But so far, Domin's held the position. He's held it for much longer than I was expecting. But there we go. Sonny sent it and has the inside of that corner towards the start of Sector 3.
Oh,
Domin is taking it back, though, and comes around the inside for this sector. Will be able to accelerate well at the start, but will have to slow down as we get further round. Sonny having the exit speed, gets clearly ahead as we go into the final 2 corners, and makes it stick. So it took him a while to get past Domin. He breezed past everyone else in the field. But now Sonny is in P4. Based on the gap between him and Sontha, 8.2 seconds, Sonny's going to be in P4 for quite a while at the present.
Yeah, and it was very, very good fight for Domin against Sunny. Sunny obviously now trying to move away as fast as possible, but sadly, or luckily for me, Maka also and Hodgson gained really, really a lot of time now because they're right up behind Domin now. They're 0.3 seconds and Hodgson 0.6 seconds behind Maka. So the fight cost Domin a lot of time, who's currently dropping 1.5 seconds behind Sunny. So the unfortunate biggest loser, Domin, but he put up a really, really well fight. It will be interesting to see what happens now between these 3 as they will be fighting for P5. I think that's the maximum they're gonna fight for today, as the top 4 is a stacked driver lineup. I mean, it's consisting of Gaben, who's just performing really, really well today, not making a mistake as of now, no penalties, no incidents, no spinnerinos. Zydox also very, very fought his way through the gate, a little bit dirty because he has 6 seconds of penalties. Santa also very, very impressive guy coming from that P4 up to that P3, and behind him now Sunny, who will try to catch him as soon as possible, and he has 11 laps to go and do so and fight for the podium position. It will be interesting to see what will happen between those 4. As of right now, they're just spread apart quite nicely. There's not going to be any battle between these 4 as of now. Behind them, for P5, there's going to be a fight, and currently there is. And further back behind them, also Glenn still behind Franken, so there was no team order so far. And which is a little bit unfortunate for those 2 Ferrari drivers, is that Monty caught up now. And we see a yellow flag. Oh, it's my boy Wilder. Very, very unfortunate.
Quick cutaway, didn't happen.
Wait, no, it didn't happen. Never happened.
Yeah. Yeah, Blaze is there. He's the weird-looking ambulance who's going around really fast and threatens to just run you over as he's at the scene. But that will actually allow Blaze to get some much-needed gap back to Wilder. Wilder having 3 seconds extra penalties when compared to Blaze means that Blaze is technically ahead. And Wilder's gone! He has retired. Looks like he's done a Glen, and there is a safety car. It's the second safety car. This is gamble hours, boys. This is Epic 7 roll gamble hours. Because what's going to happen here is at some point in the future, our drivers will be switching from intermediates to slicks. If that's in the next 3 laps, then drivers should switch to slicks now and wait out the safety car. If they do that, and then the crossover point doesn't happen in the next 3 laps, they've absolutely messed up the race, because then they have to hold up on the dry tyres or change 2 more times. But that's the absolute gamble our drivers can take. Gaben is going in, he's making the switch. I love it. He has not got wing damage. There is no other reason that he would want to pit. There's no point taking it to the end of the race. This is the dice rolled. He has put on his tuxedo. He's gone to the casino and he's put all his chips on the table.
Oh, he actually did also
He didn't change.
What?
Okay. He's just gone into the casino and basically exited in a clown suit because he put on the same tyres. So he's playing a tyre wear game as if expecting the weather not to change. I personally think that's human error. I think he meant to put on the slicks, but I don't know. I can't say for sure whether he had any wing damage in those last few laps. If there was any wing damage, then he didn't change the wing. So, yeah, I'm very confused at Gaben's decision to pit and then not change the tyre compound to slicks. Miffy is the next driver who's coming into the box. Currently on the intermediate tyres, I would expect if someone were to change, it would be to the slicks. Glenn and Monty behind them going into the box as well. So we've got intermediates at the moment. Changing for... Is it also Inters?
Yeah, he changed for Inters. Why? Is everybody changing for Inters?
Are they
yeah, they are.
I think they're expecting the rain to continue for the entire rest of the race.
That's interesting. Obviously, we don't have what the teams know right now, but if it is to go and from the pit stops right now, they think it will continue light raining till the end, or at least the track not drying up anytime soon, and they prefer to have fresh inters than to gamble for a slate tire, which is interesting.
Yeah, because of course if the rain does change in the next few laps and it does go on to dry tyre conditions, then the people who've just put themselves to the back in track position have absolutely messed up their strategy and they've just lost track position for nothing. So, as with any tyre strategy call under weather changes, it's conditional. You make the right or the wrong decision based on what the weather does in the sky. But yeah, it looks like the drivers are, half of the field are pitting onto fresh intermediates and thus expecting a long stretch with this light rain. The other half of the field are staying with their track position and expecting to change off of the intermediate tyres before they have to put on a new set. So in other words, the tyre wear being less important than the tyre compound and the conditions. Looking at the tyre life, I believe with the stats from earlier, you've got about 15 laps out of the intermediates. So the drivers who are still on their old tyre compounds will have to really stretch their tyres by an additional 3-4 laps if they're going to reach the end of the race. That's the thought process for the people who have switched.
Yeah, also, who knows, maybe Jeff told them that it is gonna stop raining, but it won't impact as much on the track, or it will start raining later on again, so that it is actually useful to just stay on the inters. Let's see if Franklin does the same. By the looks of it, it's still inters. Yep, still inters. So I think they're just making that call because they don't think it's gonna stop raining or the track stop being wet. And ooh.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for a driver to be an absolute maverick and go for the early slicks, but as you said, Pyro, we don't have the information that the drivers have. If Jeff's in their ear saying there's another 15 minutes of light rain, there's absolutely no reason to make the switch. We're on board with Monty, who's had some difficulties. He's weaving from side to side on the home straight, had a spin in the last few corners, and this is still safety car conditions. Zydox has dropped down the field. He has been overtaken by Miffy, who's just pitted, and I think he's still only got the 6 seconds of penalties. I'm not sure why that's happened, why he's dropped down.
Now I put on my tinfoil hat and say that's technical issues, because I can see only something like that happen if he had lagged back. But would be interesting, because usually you drop back by about 4 or 5 positions, not that many positions. Will be interesting to see. And in his case, if everybody else pitted for fresh tires of Inters, why not just go in at this point? You had the win, fair enough, that's why you didn't pit, but now you drop back, being for whatever the reason. I would just assume that he's probably gonna pit this lap if the safety car doesn't come in, for also a fresh set of inters and make his way through the grid again. She proved he can do that really quickly. In just 7 laps he made up like 6 positions.
So yeah, Zydox is going to have the pace. He certainly has had a history in Season 6 of PC issues. I believe those were fixed, or at least by his reckoning. So yeah, either a spin or being off the track for an extended period of time, or, as you say, technical issues. Long story short, we didn't see it, we didn't catch it on the stream, and we didn't see it with our telemetry, so we'll have news on that later. Most importantly, we'll see if Zydox will be able to cut through the field, as Pyro alludes to. The safety car will come in this lap. That's a super late call on the final 2 corners. Blaze only just getting to the field. Gaben is making his second safety car restart this race. We have 8 laps to go. We're just starting lap 21. It's an 8-bapper. Everyone on the intermediate tyres in these light rain conditions still. We have a nice little binary split between drivers like Gaben, who are on the fresh 1-lap old intermediate tyres, and then drivers like Somtha behind him, who are on 10-lap old intermediates. More than halfway through, Gaben with a worrying slide to the left, but corrected, as our drivers will try and battle with Sector 1 again. It's always difficult regardless of conditions, regardless of your tyres, and definitely in close quarters. Zydox with 6 seconds of penalties. It was damaging to his prospects before, but right now he's at the very back of the field on those 6 seconds. He's got to make moves quickly, and he's already going for Miffy. He has Miffy's number, going for the first of potentially 3 Red Bull Project drivers, as Mancho is already gone. Zydox with the inside run on Miffy as we go towards the left-hand hairpin. He will get to the braking zone first, and Miffy is going to be pushing him close. Glenn nearly careering into the back of them both, and Miffy Zydox still alongside each other. Miffy is going to go ahead, and that is going to be a nice defense from Miffy so far. Zydox will certainly still be looking for that position. The Ferraris were close to the action, and the last few laps they were close by each other. Zydox is going to attack once again. The 2 drivers of Zydox and Miffy, almost symmetrical mirror images of each other as they're going around the end of Sector 2. Zydox is going to have the outside here, and is going to get cleanly ahead as we go to this left-hander. Great driving from both.
Yeah, Miffy defending that very, very well. Unfortunate for him, Zydox still managed to get past. Same with Dorman in front, defending from Maka right now. Really, really good. Maka obviously trying to make that move now on the next straight. Both AlphaTauri drivers right now are just amazingly doing their job, and just not only helping their Red Bull teammate, who's Hutchin right now, catch up to Maka, but also defending really, really, really good. And we see Hutchin now making the move. Oh! Okay, it looked like Maka was about to hit him, but he was just trying to go from the outside, but it didn't quite work out. Unfortunately, Maka lost that position, or trying to make a move on Bowman.
My boy Hodgson looking absolutely huge right now. P5, no penalties, looking great. He's in P4 overall in the World Drivers' Championship. Looking for the gap on Somtha. Unfortunately, Somtha is in a lead of his own right now. Holding down P2, great race, driving himself. Great pace in quali, a great pace in the race, no penalties himself. So, yeah, the only one who's currently being able to hang with the Aston Martin power duo of Gaben and Sonny up there in P1 and P3. So Maka in the middle of a train right now. Dormin to Hodgson to Maka to Zydox to Miffy, all within a second of each other, going down this straight 2 laps after a safety car restart. We've got the best part of 7 laps to go here in this sodden, this rain-soaked circuit of the Americas for the United States Grand Prix. Zydox making a move here on Maka. Will have the inside track. Maka looking to use the switchback, but Zydox keeping the pace with a good exit, finding the apex on the inside of the next right-hander, and will be able to keep things alive. Now actually chasing Dorman, looking to make up multiple positions in the same complex. Zydox is on fire right now. He's going right behind Dorman. The gap is still very close because of the safety car restart. It is 0.4. Zydox looking for the inside track, unable to find it. Only really one racing line on this corner with these conditions. Monty
I love this one from Monty
at the same time.
Oh, I love this one from Monty. Usually, you don't go for overtake in that right-hander on the sector 3, but he just went for it and takes that P10 from Franklin. Whoa, I love that one. You usually don't expect stuff like that from Monty. At least I don't, because he's more of a reserve driver. He just does his own race. But this time around, whoa, I love this one. And also, I just want to say real quick, there was probably a team called because Hutchin was led by Domin. I cannot assume Domin that he was not defending that one. So Will be interesting to see why Zydox is lower again.
Yeah, they just let 2 drivers past there. Glenn's going past as well. This screams AI control because this is not Zydox space right now. So we'll have to get an insight from after the game as to why this is happening, but it's so uncharacteristic to make such sudden moves on the entire field and then drop back a few positions. That's going to be horrific for him, but great news for everyone up on the top of the field. Let's have a look at Sonny making his next target visible in his sights. It is the Mercedes of Somther, who has had a brilliant race and a brilliant season. Sonny, however, is a different beast and is leading the World Drivers' Championship. Nearly collides with Somther. Great use of the brakes there from Sonny. Looking for a really nice trajectory here. Somther keeping it ahead, coming around the right-hander here. After the line, there will be 4 laps to go. Gaben is going to lead us out. Somther looking for a great move here with the apex. Keeping things alive, keeping things half a second gap, keeping the Wolf of Sonny from the door. Looks clean from Somther. Little wiggle, but then it's corrected. And Sonny is going to have the home straight to try and make a slipstream move on. The gap is closing, but not appreciably. Somther is going to have the lead into that first sector, so keeping that defense alive.
Yeah, and he has a huge task now ahead of him because sometimes, like you said, not just any driver, he's the world driver champion. And he's obviously trying to catch up to his teammate, maybe even get the 25 points or as many points as he possibly can while Somta, my voice is leaving me, while Somta obviously is trying to make the best and defend for these next 5 laps. Mazodox dropped all the way back down and may switch to the softs. So he is actually the first one to go into the slick tires, but I can still see some raindrops, so not sure if that was a smart decision.
Yeah, the obvious elephant in the room is whether the AI control was in charge there. Because Zydox is making a maverick call, the first one to switch to slick tires. If this is the same Zydox that was in control by AI and dropped back several times down the field, the AI has absolutely inted him. But this could be a great call. Zydox is a very good thinker, he's a very tactical driver. If Zydox is in control, I can see this being a move he goes for. However, the rain is still falling, and normally the rain needs to stop several laps before the crossover point. Given that it's 4 laps from the end of the race, it's highly unlikely we now actually get that crossover point, which means the guys who pitted for fresh inters are looking really kingly about now, and Zydox is looking like a clown. But yeah, we'll see if that does anything in these next few laps. Gaben getting the fastest lap on inters. Doesn't look like there's a crossover point anytime soon. If that was the last throw of the dice from Zydox, it hasn't worked. We see Maka chasing down Dorman, the gap point 2, coming to the last corner. I think that was over the limits from Maka. I'm pretty sure a warning will have gone through there. Dorman still holding the lead, goes over left slightly, trying to break the slipstream. Will hold things firmly, going into that first corner. Miffy right behind Maka as well. We've got a nice little train developing. Best part of 4 laps to go here in round 14. Sonny chasing Somther, Maka and Miffy chasing Dorman, Monty chasing Glenn. We've got a couple battles to reconcile in this top 10 here to decide the points in today's race. Maka with 3 seconds of pens is on paper about 2 positions further back behind Miffy and behind Glenn, so it's important he gets as much headway as he can on track. He is chasing down Dorman, who has been very, very quick today, and very good at defending, as we saw from the earlier battle with the front runners.
Yeah, and Zydox obviously trying to correct his mistake probably, but while I say that, he gets a 5-second penalty. So far from this 10, the one that suffers the most is Maka because he has that 3-second penalty, unfortunately. Meaning he will drop all the way down to P8 as by the looks of it. If not even P9 or 10, as Monty also has a 3-second penalty. And the overlikes behind him will all gain that position as they're all so close together. And obviously, oh, we see another yellow flag. Okay, that's still Zydox, which is AI control, and it's just coming out now, and we'll probably try at the right-hand side of the track, hopefully disappear in time before Gaben appears there, and before this fight between Sunny and Samta. Samta so far still keeping Sunny at bay. That is very, very crucial as there are only 3 more laps to go. Oh my god, the car is actually not just disappeared, it's just... Okay, now it disappeared. It was dangerously in the middle of the track. And I think he said that to Sunny as well, Gaben, because I can see Sunny not trying to make a move when there's a car next to the track, which you obviously don't want to crash into.
Yeah, well said. You don't want that to decide things in the last few laps of the race. Zydox won't have intended for his car to be there, but will have put the comms down. So everyone's managed to avoid it. We've still got a real heated battle here. Sonny now sees the opportunity to extend his lead at the top of the World Championship. His closest rival, Zydox, has won 6 races, but won't be getting anything from today's race. 11 drivers remain, and Blaze currently is the only one set to not score a point, so he's got to deliver a really solid 3 laps here. Maka is chasing down Dorman. Dorman is defended well for the best part of 3 laps now. Maka also has that 3-second penalty to reconcile, so he is going to be behind Miffy, behind Glenn, and behind Monty, unless Monty's 3-second pen impacts things further. It's a real cocktail, these penalties, but most importantly, we have a train coming down this home straight, 2.5 laps to go. Further ahead, Sonny is half a second behind Somther. He will continue his attack for the remainder of this race. There are unlikely to be any more tyre changes. We're getting to the point where safety cars can't come out, I believe, at the end of lap 26. The safety car won't join us for a remaining 2 laps, or maybe just a 1-lapper. So Gaben is more and more secure of a win here.
No.
He needs to get things sorted. He needs to continue going smoothly in these remaining 2 laps. Pyro, what's happened to your boy?
He got another 3-second penalty, which not only drops him all the way behind Franklin at this point and Monty, but potentially, no, never mind, scratch that because Blaze also has a 6-second, but still, that will 100% now drop him all the way back down in P10, giving him only 1 point, which is very frustrating because he did a very good job so far. Dorman also very good job in holding Maka back. Maka actually going for it because now he is alongside him. Can he make it stick? Oh, this is very close. Next one is Dorman on the inside. I cannot see it. I think he made it stick. Yeah, he made it stick. So Maka has a whole time of 2 laps to make that gap now and move as fast as possible away from that train to somehow make up for that mistake that he got a 6-second penalty, which is unfortunate because he has been driving such a well race, and Dorman also has been defending very nice. Both of the Alpha Taris actually defending really well this race, and Monty now also on a 3-second penalty, looking for eventually gaining 1 or more positions at least on track, because it will drop them behind as soon as the checkered flag counts.
Oh my god, Monty's going for it, he's sending it! Look at the dude! He's hit Dorman! He's hit himself spinning backwards on the track. He has the dog in him on that corner. He is going to get back onto the circuit. There is no way he could have made that happen, but damn it, he went for it anyway. That's the gun-toting, freedom-loving society we love. Both Alpha Tauris are colliding with each other. This is not what we want from Miffy and Dorman. Dorman, I presume, had some damage to his bodywork after that Monty Maverick maneuver. And yeah, Miffy is going to take the position off of that one. We start the final lap here in the United States, lap 28 of 28. Gaben is set to win for the first time this season. Somther with a 1-second gap to Sonny behind him has been able to complete that defense so far and is in line for a 2nd place again this season. Looking really good. Glenn is within 3/10 of Dorman and might look for a send here.
Yeah, and that was very interesting for Monty. I mean, he got maybe 2 ahead of himself, but very interesting from him. So far, like you said, Sonka also kept Sonny all the time behind him. Now even pulling a fair amount of gap between those two. Was for a short amount of time, 1.2 seconds. Now it closed again for half a second, 8/10. But I cannot see if something doesn't make any more mistakes. Sonny overtaking, which is a well-driven race. Why I say that Glenn makes a move on Dorman, which is very good for the Ferrari boys. Unfortunate for Dorman. I think he has actually some damage because I cannot understand otherwise why he would drop so far down. And also, Blaze now overtaking Monty. At least he tries to make the attempt to. It wasn't enough. Monty's still fighting for that P10, at least on track. Penalties will be
at the same time. Pyro Gaben is coming round the final corner. This is set to be his 4th victory overall, his first this season. And Gaben is going to take the victory here at the Circuit of the Americas. Somtha and Sunny set to complete our podium. A clean race from all 3 drivers. Somtha is going to cross the line for a 2nd place. He's always the bridesmaid, but he's been bridesmaid a lot of times this season. A nice little slide wiggle from Hodgson, who extends his points record to a perfect 14 after 14 rounds. Maka is going to cross the line 5th, but let's see who gets in ahead of him. Might be 2, might be 3. Here come the AlphaTauri boys. Miffy's going to jump in ahead. Dormin is going to jump in ahead into P6. Glenn is behind Maka P8. Franklin P9. And Blaze and Monty are going to come to the line. It's likely Blaze will cross first, but Monty will finish ahead based on that 3 seconds of penalty. And that's exactly what happens. Monty is going to take that last point there. Blaze is going to finish, but miss out on the points. Agonising for my man in the Mercedes garage, race director, captain of that project. Sunny with the driver of the day performance there, getting up to podium positions from P, I think 13, might be 14. Great drive from him. Takes a streak away from Hodgson, who's been the driver of the day, I think, the last 2 or 3 times. There we see he lifts the trophy. His teammate Gaben, Gaben lifts the trophy. His teammate Sunny on the podium as well. Somtha is in P2. Fantastic drive from Aston Martin. And Somtha is still looking for that first win. Everything was set up well for him today, but he was beaten by the better driver in Gaben. So, yeah, fantastic work from our guys on the podium. Hodge and Miffy, I also appreciate the way they've been driving. So yeah, it's there's a lot to unpack. Any particular drivers who have excited you, Pyro?
I mean, just they're both AlphaTaurs today. I mean, the defending was just stellar. Also, Somtha with the defending against Sunny of all drivers, very, very impressive. Today, you just saw the best out of everyone. Gaben just driving his mind out of this. It was just perfect conditions for him. He showed everybody that the wet track and USA is his. He practiced and he finally got his W. Very well deserved, Gaben. Very, very well deserved. Also, congrats to you, Somtha. Still not that win. Hopefully it will come to you, but very nice defending against Sunny. And once again, both AlphaTaurs also a very, very well fought race today. They were fighting against and defending against Sunny, also one of those drivers. And I mean, I cannot stress it enough. If you can defend very well for at least 2-3 laps, and I think both AlphaTauri did it for even 5 to 6 laps against Sunny. Somtha did the same, and right now we see Sunny and Zydox as one of the fastest drivers around the track right now. So it just shows how quick and how good these drivers this season are. And I'm just that was an interesting race. It wasn't as interesting towards the end as we expected to, because I would have loved to have a little bit maybe of a dry session towards the end. When the DRS was activated, the race was already over, but an interesting race nonetheless.
Yeah, well said, Pyro. It's been great to be here with you. The racing started off slow in the wet conditions, got faster, a few interesting strategy calls, a few chaotic DNFs as well. I certainly wasn't expecting the double retirement in Q2, the early loss of Mancho and Whopper. We then also had, I think it was one more retirement in the end. We did lose Wilder, and we lost Zydox towards the end as well. So yeah, 4 retirements, 11 finishing. One of our smaller grids to finish a race. But yeah, it really shows how competitive it was. And yeah, the top drivers really drove cleanly, drove with lots of pace in the varying conditions, and showed how good they were throughout. It's a fantastic performance, particularly from Gaben, who is going to get most of the gap towards Hodgson in P4 in the World Drivers' Championship. Somtha is going to get 18 points, and he's going to close right in on Zydox. I believe that puts him within about 30 points, which can be done in 2 races with the right conditions. Sunny extending his lead at the top of the championship. To do so without attending quali is fantastic. One more point I'd like to make is that the 2 drivers who performed the best, that was Gaben and Somtha, had family support in the Twitch chat as well. So shout out to Copycat's family, whoever was watching behind that account to support Somtha. And also Gaben's dad is turning up with the Electro Droid username. So Great to see that your drivers have repaid the faith that you're putting in them. Collectively, they've scored the most possible points, and Gaben also getting the points for fastest lap. 26 in total based on that 1 point for the extra fastest lap. So yeah, great performance from both drivers. It was really nice to see pace difference at the top, and also I like seeing how drivers respond to strategy calls. So that race had everything for me. Before we hand back, Sandro, have we got any more shout outs for the stream?
No, I'm also just joining you on the shout out there. It's lovely to see the family supporting the drivers. It just amazes me. It makes me happy, and I'm happy for the drivers. I'm happy for them supporting them. Yeah, I hope everybody has a great night, great start to the next week, and hopefully we can see all drivers on peak performance after Easter. Hopefully they enjoyed their time with their families. Yeah, and hope you guys enjoyed the cast. Thank you as well, Creden. I enjoy casting with you, and I think
No, you.
we're gonna head it back to the desk. Not sure, but I think it's gonna probably be Stu, and I don't know who's gonna be Brendan, who decided to grace us with his presence from his car. I think he sprinted his way here. Don't think he had to park too far after he didn't race that much. I didn't say that. Well, heading off to them. Have a great night, everybody.
Well, fuck you, copy. Drop that first.
Banter.
Get out of here, laughing. Do one. Go away. Shoot. Breaking the immersion. Get out of here. There you go. Dispensed.
Have I got to talk again?
Yes.
Oh,
You volunteered.
I did.
Correct.
I was just helping a brother out.
Yeah, and you're helping a brother out again. Right then.
That was a race, wasn't it?
I don't know, was it? I didn't see much apart from ocean spray and the rear wing of a few different cars. I'm jokes. I jokes. I got a live feed of what was happening. Obviously, Gaben just had mental pace as expected. Mancho was battling with Gaben early and died early. Strong finish from Sompter in the end after having Sully chip at his heels for the last 10 laps. Pretty intense stuff. It'd be if someone could quickly throw in the results into the control room so I can sort of see them as I go, because I don't know much of the middle bit. Shadow, I think, rear-ended someone. Franklin, probably. So, a couple of retirements there.
There's a lot of guesswork.
No. Shadow hit the back of Franklin. Franklin then had a little bit of damage, which cost him some pace. But obviously, it cost Shadow his race. Wilder DNF, I believe, at the entrance to the pit lane. Don't know if you saw it on stream.
He did.
He span on the bank left at turn 12. Span into the barrier, had wing damage, came back out to go and get the wing damage, or went to go and get the wing damage repaired. Underestimated the understeer and understeered into the pit wall, which is never a particularly want to do maneuver. No one lapped, which I think is unusual for a US race.
No, you almost got lapped at the start, I think, but managed to hang on in there.
Yeah, I could do with a bipod repair mid-race. Well, I need some of them quick repairs. That's what they need.
Just have some of that silver tape they put on airplanes, mate. That's what you want.
Or on the front of endurance
some
cars.
of that on.
The flexible tape or aluminum
Flex
tape or whatever they call it. Look, yes, flex tape.
To demonstrate the power of flex tape, I sawed this side pod in half.
There's definitely a spicy moment. Any standout moments from you? Obviously, you saw more of the race than I did.
Well, I mean, the end was pretty brutal. In several regards for different groups. There's a lot of contact between the Alpha Tauris. Monty just sending it from orbit into turn 12. causing a bit of damage on Dorman most likely. Obviously nothing's confirmed yet, but it looked like it was an uncomfortable situation. It's good that it was mostly clean for the most part through the race. It's just that end bit got a bit crazy. But with the dry line fast approaching, people had to start making those moves, I think. So, yeah.
Desperation ensued.
Right. Yeah. I mean, nothing overly dramatic happened. Qualifying was a bit spicy, I guess, with a couple of DNFs, but aside from that, I think it's been an all right evening in general, really.
Gaben finally gets the win. He's been chasing after for what feels like a long time. Obviously, last week was I don't know how a bad brain lag, bad choice with the old pit entry maneuver, which cost him a black flag. The race before, when he just seemed to get a bit too much damage and it cost him all of his pace. Finally a dub. His first one this season. Statsman, yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah, it is his first one this season. Excellent. Thank you, Statsman. It's not his first win in VL. He did have a win last season when he was on the Project Ferrari team, I think in the Alpha, while on Project Ferrari, if memory serves. So he's got number 2 under the belt, which seems like it's his 4th win. He's got number 4 under the belt, which seems like it should have come earlier this season, but I'm sure he's relieved to finally get it. We'll hear from him later. Comments on the drive?
From who? From me?
No, from you about Gaben, yeah.
About Gaben?
About Gaben's drive, his win. That's what I've just been talking about.
I wasn't listening.
I gathered that. Amateur.
It's one of these things where, because it's such a dominant lead, generally it's not followed too much except for, yep, they're still in the lead. And you get that in actual broadcasts, and we had a bit of it tonight, really. So, I mean, it's good that it was consistent enough to no penalties, no dramas, no spins. So, good skill of operation from that. I can't think of a better way to phrase that. There probably is. But a clean and consistent evening from Gaben, really, and that has been good for the victory. It's just a shame that it wasn't Somther, really, but that's just my personal thing, you know. Somther's been hunting for several seasons for that win. Was close, but Gaben was very much on it tonight.
It's well, like you said, it was just dominant from start to finish. There was no he was just comfortably in control. I think we're gonna try and get the first person in. If there's any chance of getting a Somther, if someone can just jump down and check for me. Somther P2 in the end. Like I said, with Gaben chopping on his heels constantly, he had to work to get it. So it's definitely a hard fought. And there he is. There's the man of the hour. Mr. Yet again another second place.
Another podium, that's not first place.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your 6th P2 this season.
Yep.
Puts you on 167 points. You're less than 30 away from Zydox and 22 away from Hodgson. So it's almost a race wins gap. Something good. Obviously Hodgson's got, so he might flick another one. That man has an infinite number of luck. So, what do you think? Good day at the office?
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised for second, especially with Zydox and Mantra having so much pace as well in DNFing. And then managed to just stay out of reach of Sunny for the last 10-ish laps. It was a good race. I was a bit worried about it drying up at the end, especially with DOS being activated, because then if that had happened, Sunny would 100% have caught me. But stayed wet enough, long enough, just to get second place. But yeah, there's no catching Gaben at all. It was way too quick.
Sonny, at the end of the race, Sonny was basically all over your heels. I did ask you jokingly over during the race if you think he's playing with you. Turns out in the end he wasn't, because you got the second place and it's what you wanted.
Yeah, well, he was about 7 tenths behind ish, fluctuating around there. But I was talking to him a moment ago when we were running a different setup wing wise. So whether that had much of an impact, I don't know. But yeah, it was a close one.
A couple of safety cars which you said were definitely against what you wanted them to be.
Yep.
In the end, I suppose it made no difference. But how badly did the safety cars upset your balance and what was going on with your strategy and the gaps you were building?
Messed up my gaps. I probably lost about 11 or 12 seconds to cars behind me under the safety car. But also Zardox binned under the safety car, so I got position out of that. So I suppose all in all, I profited from them. Yeah, and then I had a poor VSC restart. It caught me a poor time, so I lost about 2 seconds to that as well. But it worked out in the end. It's first full wet race of the season. We had Inters last week. I discovered that my car would not turn 2, so that was an interesting turn 2. I'm sure for a lot of people. Yeah, no, it's a good one.
Do we think this dub is coming at any point, or are you just content to keep?
I content. I would be surprised if it came. Shut up, stupid.
People can hear you now. Still behave.
I'm not expecting one. Obviously, one would be nice, but yeah, I'm very happy with seconds and thirds. Also, interesting fact I was talking about earlier, I've only shared podiums with 5 people, despite having however many 8 or 9 podiums. So yeah.
Oh right, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Sorry. Yeah. Still, anything you want to hit him with? Obviously, he's a compatriot, a peer, a draftee of your generation.
What was your favourite compound of tyre tonight?
It's got to go to the intermediates,
Excellent.
Considering the wets were actual dog water in the water.
Yep.
It's okay. That's good then. Muchas gracias. Good job on the second place, and well, you're gonna miss Canada, so unlucky, Lamar.
Yeah. Well, potentially, I might be back. We'll see. One thing to ask: make sure you ask Dorman about his setup.
Ask Dorman about his setup.
Yep. That is all.
Okay, we'll ask Dorman about his setup then. Thank you.
Cool. Bye.
Bye.
Like I said.
Next? Oh no.
Well, probably someone in a minute. Obviously, you mentioned it before the race. Someone that you started your racing career with, and you moved to VL at the same, like you and VL at the same time, same team, F2 together, etc. Are you surprised at the trajectory some of the sort of taken? Like, are these consistent P2s what you thought would happen when you were racing together, or did you think you'd be like Lamar midfield brothers kind of thing? Not in a rude way, but more like, I'm caught off a little bit by how good Something's been this season.
No, I mean not necessarily. Just because we both started at the same time doesn't mean that he's going to be as crap as I am. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be as good as he is. So I'm pleased to see that his career in the group has been a lot more fruitful than my own. I suppose we've just got involved in different ways. He's just done well, and I've followed the old proverb of if you can't do, teach. So here I am.
Well, okay. Well, it wasn't so much as a way of digging at you. It was more just the fact that Somther is obviously
No, that's
this
fine.
is by
I just didn't know how to
far,
answer
by
the
far his
question, so I'm
strongest.
just fluffing
This
an
is
answer.
this is like this season for him is unreal compared to his previous. I'm pretty sure he scored more points this season than he has in like combined previously. Unless Cradden's about to tell me I'm massively wrong, but it feels like that, at least based on performances. We're gonna get.
I think he's doing
Oh,
really well.
It's doing
I'd
very
like
well.
to see him. I'd like to see him win a race, though.
I'm just answering my question. Sorry. The race director strikes again, apparently. Okay, let's get the Red Bull boys in here. A bit. Well, I say Red Bull boys. Obviously, it's the AT boys, but it's close enough. Okay, he's not far. So stats have just hit me with a. In all previous seasons, Something's got 228 points. So far this season, he's got 167. So it's very closely nearly there, which is, kind of incredible. In the meantime, though, we have Gene Central, or whatever it is Avatar actually make clothes-wise, in Dorman and Miffy, 5 and 6, I'm told. Which way around was the 5 and which way around was the 6?
I was 5. Yeah, I was 5.
Shock. Miffy finished 5th.
It's my home position.
Oh, well, Graham Potter's been sacked as well, Lamal.
He has, yeah.
Anyway, P5, P6. Apparently, the first thing I need to ask Dorman though is his setup. So let's take that bait.
Setup is 8/8 with floor damage.
Okay.
Which
So,
is apparently crazy according to other people I've spoken to.
What happened with the floor damage? I mean,
Oh,
you would have had mad straight line speed, but
I had mad straight line speed. Sunny was not happy. I don't think Mako was either. But yeah, I was just behind Wilder when he was still on wets, and I just pitted for inters. And I went for an overtake, then the dry. I've done like a million times. And yeah, just in the wet, I think I just didn't quite have the grip, slid a bit. And maybe he didn't see me coming because it's a bit of an unconventional corner to go for. It's one of the ones in Sector 3. And we just lightly collided. It really wasn't bad, but I just got some floor damage from it because simulation damage and simulation damage rate. So yeah, that was painful for the rest of the race. And then Monty came and made it worse at the end. But he was coming in like a rocket ship.
He was.
So yeah.
it's getting pretty par for the course these days to see you guys finishing that highly, if not higher up. Obviously, Dorman's got to win this season. We had to go to Monaco for Miffy to get his annual win. How to plan is this kind of finish today, especially when he realized it was wet and as far as I'm aware, Miffy was someone who despised this track. Obviously, you seem to get to the grips of it quick enough, but
I think
how to plan was it?
I think I got a bit flattered by this result. I'm not gonna lie. I think there were a fair few people who were a lot quicker than me, but maybe got caught out in the wet. Zydox and Mantra were definitely a lot quicker. Dorman was quicker, but he had a bit of damage. I think Mako was quicker, but he, corner cutting. Yeah, that too. Yeah, I kind of just, like the safety car worked really well for me. And I think to a lesser extent, the people behind me as well, because everyone behind me pitted for fresh inters, whereas the people in front of me didn't. So I was effectively first on the new inters. It didn't give me that much. I think like after a few laps, it was, just a bit better drive off corners and stuff, but it wasn't. I think I got a bit lucky here, but I think, I'll take it.
I mean, you kept on the track, right, pointing in this right direction.
Yeah.
So that's about half of it in the wet, as unfortunately Manchester proved to us.
Yeah.
But I mean, I probably would have hoped for roughly where I finished in the dry. But with the wet, I wasn't confident. I did have a good quality though, so I just ran low wings, ran with that. But considering that I was managing floor damage for most of the race, I don't know. I'm pretty happy. I probably could have held Hodge back if I'd like really tried, but it wouldn't have been worth this. So I just basically the moment he caught back up to me, caught to me, I just let him by. And then when I got more damage from Monty, I let Mithy by as well. Yeah, maybe I could have finished before, but like not really worth me potentially messing up other people's race and be secured beating Maka because that seemed to be a bit of a 3v1 on him. So
Yeah.
overall, pretty good race in the end. But yeah, a lot more stressful than I'd hoped. It would have been nice to have a dry race with plenty of grip, as opposed to whatever that was.
Yeah, I've just remembered that I had an absolute shocker in qualifying in Q3. I managed to invalidate my first and second laps in Q3, and it was like going for my final lap without a time on the board, just like kind of going through the entire last sector, like don't run wide, please don't run wide.
It's definitely becoming, like I said, a bit normal. Are you worried that it seems to be a bit too regular that you're not getting more higher up places? Okay, let me rephrase that better. 5 and 6 is nice, but it isn't yet constantly, 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. Is that in the future, or is that just sort of whatever?
I'll let Dom take that.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's kind of sort of whatever. I think most races you get at least probably like 3 of the 4 top drivers finishing of the likes of, I think, of the 4 Zydox, the 2 Astons, and Somtha. Typically 3 of them finish, so those podium spots are typically locked out and a bit of a hard to get. So you need to hope for a bit of luck and a very good track for you. So for me, yeah, Brazil worked out really well between both the extra long race suiting me better and Brazil's a track suiting me really well. And then Gaben and Somtha took each other out, so that was 2 of the 4. Zydox had some damage, so in the end I only had to go beat Sunny, which I was actually able to. Other than that, it is most tracks just kind of okay, they go off in the distance, maybe they take each other out. We can hope for the that, but otherwise, yeah, 4, 5, 6, we clean up any podiums we can get from their mistakes. And yeah, I mean that's what happened in I think both Austria and Australia for me. My other 2 podiums, just others messing up, and me being there to capitalize.
Yeah, I'd say same for me in China. Both Mancho and Somtha collided. Zydox, I think, had PC issues, maybe in China again. But yeah, so it was Sunny Hodge me in China. So I think that's about where I'm at. I'm pretty happy with just kind of hovering around that like kind of middle of the points kind of thing. I think that's probably about where I am on pace. And considering that we've kind of gone through like if you said that I was going to get 4th and 5th in Mexico and USA, which are 2 of the tracks I really don't like, then I'd bite your hand off for that one. I'm happy. Let's hope I can kind of push on in some places like Canada where I actually quite like, but we'll see.
I mean, until it rains again, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a week break to think about if you want to practice wet or dry. Obviously, there's no way of predicting if it's going to be wet or dry, but yeah, move, I guess. Stool, anything you want to ask before we let them go? No,
Favorite
okay.
chocolate bar?
Oh, go on then.
Oh. Damn, I wasn't prepared for this question.
Oh, okay. I definitely really like a double decker, but not the small ones. The small ones are really, really bad. I like the big ones.
Okay.
I used to really like Lion bars when I was younger.
Oh, those are not common.
No, they're not. And I was always just like, whenever I saw one, I was like, oh, hell yeah. But I actually quite like the dime bars, the little ones you get from IKEA. Like,
yeah, dime bars are a solid choice.
Yeah, so
You go
one of them.
shopping for chocolates in IKEA?
They put them strategically at the exit in a massive bag, and I have absolutely zero willpower. So I'm like, yes, chocolate, give me.
I've clearly been to the wrong IKEAs.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much, lads. P4, P5, good finish. Wait, no, P5, P6, good finish. And apparently you took part in the US Grand Prix, so well done, lads. And we'll see you in a fortnight. Fortnight. Bodge them.
Ciao.
Daniel, not Daniel. Daniel's muted. And I don't want to ask him anyway. Torben, what's your favorite chocolate bar?
I'm going to be biased because I had a toffee crisp while the race was going on. So, toffee crisp is pretty solid.
Okay. I've not got much to do camera-wise. Have a snack. I appreciate it.
I was hungry. I'm going to slap a pizza on after this because I haven't had dinner yet. Thanks
I
to
mean, same
our
amount.
dinner time schedule, broadcast time schedule.
Bet. Should we get some Aston Martins?
Well, yeah, you can do. I don't know how many more you want to do, but that's
Just the Aston Martins.
Okay.
Are they ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Quick, someone say something in Swedish.
Hedge.
IKEA.
Hejsan.
Blahaj.
Is that the shark?
Yes.
Gaben.
Yes.
Senor, finally a win this season. It took
long overdue.
15 races with 4 close calls. Happy?
Yeah, I'm so happy that I could finally keep it together for a win. Like, I've been close a few times, but it finally happened.
It's I don't want to say you've been we're going to be unbiased here. We don't want to say you've been some of your race wins that were taken away from you weren't entirely, some of them weren't entirely not your fault. However, this week, today, you've had no bad luck and no mistakes on your part that at least were major enough to cost you a win.
Yeah.
Qualifying pace has been absolutely pure fire. I did say to the boys that were on the actual race commentary, if they reckon, is your qualifying domination going to continue because it's another wet race? And the answer, I think, was an overwhelming yes. I don't know how much they commented on it, but it was definitely noticeable that you seem to have a booky amount of pace in the rain. Compared you to the old flyer. Old calm in the wet, pretty good. Old flyer in the wet, the man literally drove like there was slick tires. So you seem to have been, catching up on that.
Yeah.
Have you been practicing wet quali? Is it something you're actually good at? Is it
No, it's just the setup wasn't that different from the dry one. Like, it was 10-9 in dry and 10-10 in wet. So like, it didn't feel that strange, like it can sometimes. But like, I've just been practicing a lot.
There's practicing a lot, but if you're doing test 50s and time trials in the dry, only so much of that will carry over to wet. Obviously, you're proving that more of it does, at least for you. Because obviously, Somtha and Sonny were in P2 and 3 and basically were nowhere near you.
Yeah, like, I've always felt that I've been good in the wet. Like, I've always had kind of good control with my throttle and braking. The last race was just unlucky where my end just slipped, but I've always felt comfortable in the wet without like doing it that much.
That's fair. Some people, like I said, Flyer just had it naturally, and you've got that gift too. Then take advantage of it and win every wet race because at least you can monopolize on one market. Obviously, Sonny's here as well. I've got to ask: were you playing with Somtha, or was he genuinely just managing to keep just ahead of you?
I was not able to overtake, so I was not playing around. It's because I suck at wet, especially at Kota. And then coming into this race, I was running lower front wing, I think. And then I just couldn't keep up in the straights. And then I had shit tires at the end, so I couldn't do anything in Sector 3 or Sector 1.
Are you particularly upset about P3, or is it still just enough points on the board to stay ahead of Sidox to keep you going? Because obviously you're not battling something, you're quite comfortably ahead of him. The problem in your case is currently Zydox. And a DNF means he scores diddly fuck all, whereas you've got at least, third place worth of points.
No, I'm very happy with third place, considering I started last, or P14. I was not thinking I was gonna get on top of the podium. I was thinking maximum 5th. But I'm happy for Gaben. Finally got that win, well deserved. And then something with his consistency is just crazy.
Are you currently happy with how the championship's looking? You're 30 points ahead, so you've got a race wins worth of leeway. Coming up to Canada, I don't know how strong you reckon it is as a track for you. Are you now, how much are you looking over your shoulder that Charlie could just be there any minute?
I'm not looking over my shoulder, but I expect him to come with everything. I expect him to come with the Death Star, honestly. He's gonna bring a fucking bang. But I'll take it race by race, do my best. And if he DNFs or if I DNF, it is what it is. But I'm happy with the 30 point gap. But I'll take it race by race. I'm not looking at winning the championship now. I'll take that when the day comes.
Just winning the Constructors' Championship now instead, yeah?
Yeah.
Gaben, you're currently holding down P5. Obviously, a maximum haul today. Wait, who got fastest lap? Dan?
I did.
Gaben.
Okay. Maximum haul today then, 26 fat ones. Gap now to Hodgson is 18. Yeah, I can do math. Gap now to Hodgson is 18. Gap then to Somther is
24.
40.
No. Wait, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd add the two together. 4 or 5 races ago, we hadn't written you off the battle for P3, but we did say you're probably the outside contender, considering Somther had a points lead. Is it actually a realistic expectation, or battle with Somther, be ahead of Somther, at least get ahead of Hodgson? Like, where's your current mindset over the next 3 races?
Second or next 3 races, maybe Somther, but at the end, I think I can beat Zydox.
Oh, okay, Dan, remember that. We need to keep that one in mind. The gauntlet's been thrown down to beat Zydox.
Banter.
Okay, that's. I mean, it's if you're aiming that high, then aim that high. Gap is 30, 54, 76. I should have got Dan to do this.
More than 0.
101. You got 101 points to Zydox. Is that right?
What? No.
No. Wait, what?
Doable.
Like
If it
64.
There you go. I've added an extra number on somewhere. 64 points. Considering that Zydox is going to, well, I say that, continue to score points. He is a bit pendulum swingy from going from first to last, first to no points. It's an attainable target, but it's obviously a long-term project because he's got that advantage already. Are there any strong tracks coming up that you have particularly got your sights set on? This is mine.
Let me see. Monaco, I love. I'd say I'm pretty strong on the European tracks. They're my favorites. So I've been waiting for the shit tracks to be over with.
You've been waiting for the tactically placed European tracks at the end of the season. Okay. So Canada out the way, and then really start to nail down these actual racetracks rather than street circuits or fake tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you can catch him before the end of the season, or is it going to come down to the end of the last race kind of thing?
Depends on how he does. I think I can come close, but I think we'll be very close at the end.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to this now, because I think if you, on the current curve, I think it's going to definitely come close to the end. There's 10 races, including next week, to go. probably 11 because Michael Massey. But it's definitely coming down to a T. Last comment then on Constructors Championship.
Thank you. Give us the trophy.
Okay, that's basically what I thought it was going to be. There's rumors of team movements on the horizon, but is there any combination of two drivers you think would actually give you a run for your money this late into the season? If Charlie suddenly got a teammate, would you be worried? And if so, who would that teammate be?
Yeah, I think I think Somtha is the most consistent. That would fit Charlie because he's always up there in top 5 or top 3. So I think that would benefit Psyducks the most out of all the drivers.
Because
Not
having
Hodgson.
a teammate.
Hodge.
I think Hodgson is technically more consistent than Somtha, but Somtha has more points.
Yeah, but Hodge is also consistent on pitting lap 3 of the safety car.
It says Charlie, apparently. Mine went on to softs, like, yeah, let's give it a go. That's fair. So a Somtha Charlie duo would actually make you concerned that maybe it's not going to be an easy cakewalk.
Yes.
Still, Ben, time to hit with any hard-hitting questions.
Favorite color?
Pink.
Turquoise.
Is it not Aston Martin green?
No, we actually have the pink on the cars, so.
True. Okay, I'll give you that. Cool. Any less comments from you boys? At least one of you's got family watching. Either language.
Yeah, I want to shout out my dad. Because
Feel free.
he's been very supportive.
Stor shoutout till Hampus pappa. Du är en gud. Jag älskar dig för det här.
I'm assuming that's the end, yeah?
Yeah.
My favorite chocolate bar is Milky Way, by the way.
Milky Way?
No, Milky Way.
Of course you said that.
No. I can respect that.
It's because he looks like one, that's why.
Milky Way's a legit bar. What are you on about?
Cool.
You're the kind of person that doesn't eat the Maltesers out of celebrations.
What? What? Okay. If there's nothing else you two want to say, then Gaben's dad, he's got the win. Be proud of him. Make sure you buy him a pint. Or whatever it is. The Scandinavian equivalent, liter. I don't know. And enjoy your week off. And try and actually have a week off, lads. Yeah. Leave for something.
No.
Cool. Cheers, lads. And feel free to disappear.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stallbend, see the screen behind the camera that has like the security footage of what's going on in the building?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a very, very well-dressed, well-educated news anchor making his way through the building, but that could just be me.
I can't listen to the setup for this with a straight face.
Oh my god, you're right, it's me.
Wait, what?
Travis has entered the building.
I haven't even got a Travis face to put on here. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, that'll do.
A better news anchor. You might want to act quickly, Stubborn, because he's just walked into the room and he's now walking down the stairs past the audience.
Oh, should I play the thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll play the thing.
That is crease. Colin Newsarelli here. How are we doing, folks? How are we on the desk?
Oh, I love the way you faded. Only you, Colin, have that much natural ability and charisma to fade onto the screen.
Hell yeah, it's my fresh fade. Look, much like much like Chris Copperwheat over there. Only advanced Final Fantasy 14 players will get that reference. but yeah, it's been a great pleasure to watch today as my boy Gaben took home his first win. And big Fs for Somtha in the chat as he still looks for the first win globally. 125 races into VLF1. serial milestone. But that's not what we care about right now. We're looking at Racing Rivals. And Racing Rivals, for anyone who doesn't know, is my competition. Not the World Drivers' Championship, not the World Constructors' Championship, not even Driver of the Day. It's a meme contest where every race there is a 1v1. Every seat is involved in a 1v1 against another seat. And we see who does the best in a series of ludicrous formats involving leagues, a gauntlet, playoffs, and then a final gauntlet. And at the end, someone wins. It's fun. Enjoy. So yeah, this is the results from today's 1v1s. The battle is between seats. So, for example, that top battle is between Aston Martin's first seat and AlphaTauri's first seat. But most of the time, it's the same driver in that seat. And we try to make it so that the same driver sits in there. Now, here are the results. We're missing one little result at the bottom. The two drivers in grey in Group Brabham. That's the bottom group. Monty did pit you for 10th, but Blaze, how are we feeling at the line? You got first over, he got you in the standings. Could that have gone different another day?
He drove well on the last 2 laps to be defensive. That car was about 3 cars wide. He did everything by the book correctly, so I can't be mad.
Yeah, absolute wide Monty coming in. He's actually undefeated. He's our only undefeated driver. We'll get to that later. But yeah, looking at the other battles in the bottom group, Brabham, the 4 AFKs for Alfa Romeo's 2 drivers and Williams' 2 drivers. Combine that with Flyer not being there, meant there were quite a few foregone conclusions. Maka, Shadowhopper, and Wilder getting 3 wins. Williams 2 and Haas 2 had no drivers representing them, so that was a tie. Nothing to gain from that contest. But everyone was there in the top group, Group Ascari. As a guide towards the format, this is the second league stage. This was the 5th race, so we're at the halfway point in the second league stage, where there's a bit of a round robin between our drivers. And for the top group, they want to get into the top 7. For the bottom group, they want to get into the top 3. That's how we get our top 10 drivers for the final gauntlet. If you think I'm talking absolute nonsense, then I am, because it's all a series of contrived formats. If you want to find more, you can look at the webpage newsarelli.online. Cheers, Stillbend. And here are the standings after 5 of 9 races in the second league stage. So in bottom group Brabham, Alpine and McLaren are doing really well. The top 3 at the moment, let me look towards the drivers, are set to be Monty, Wilder, and Shadowhopper. They'll be joined in the final gauntlet by the top 7 in Group Ascari. So from the top down, that's looking to be Miffy, Sonny, and Gaben on 4 and 1. You've then got Somtha and Zydox on 3 and 2. And then finally, there's going to be a nice little tiebreaker. 2 of Franklin, Dorman, and Mancho, who are on 2 and 3, are set to progress. Hodge is on 1 and 4. Glenn is on 0 and 5 in the current driver seat combinations. So still everything to play for, but that's how things look. If you've got any more questions about Racing Rivals and you really love the format, then give me a message by homing pigeon. Go to newsarelli.online or message my close associate Cradden on Discord. I feed him all the format info. Any questions, boys? How are we feeling? Any hard-hitting questions from Stool?
Favorite F1 track?
Yeah, Hungary.
That's Cradden's favourite F1 track. What's Colin Israeli's favourite F1 track?
Colin's favourite F1 track is going to be a nice 1v1 track. So I'll say Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. Yeah, that's a good one. Anything, Trav? You've joined onto the broadcast very late. Anything you want to know, or any shout outs you want to make?
No, excellent.
Yeah, moving swiftly the hecty wacty on. Boys, I've been Colin Newsarelli. It's been fantastic. Hope you have a good rest of broadcast. I'm out of here.
Cheers, Colin.
I was mesmerized.
Wait, is it playing in reverse?
It might have been.
Okay.
Did we just Prince of Persia that?
Crash Bandicoot, mate.
Colin there representing Racing Rivals on behalf of Racing Rivals and Sons Co-Limited Incorporated and Sons. Well, I think we can call that a race, can't we?
Yeah. Yes. Almost time to have some dinner, I think.
I can get behind that. I can get behind the dinner shout. In which case, then I guess it's just heading you with the old cheers. Last bit of housekeeping then. We have one race left before we move to Europe. Based on the fact that people have been asking me in Discord, transfer window actually opens as soon as Canada ends and closes as soon as, or just before the Portuguese Grand Prix starts. However, if you want to make a deal now, get it cleared with me now, you can do it, and then it just won't apply until Canada starts. Does that make sense? Yeah? No?
Yeah.
Yeah? I'm hoping it will make sense for Travis as he's one of the captains, but...
Yeah, sure, if it does.
Yeah, no,
I'm
it
gonna
makes
go with
sense. Sorry. Yeah.
This is like
Apologies, I was just
Distraction
taking
Olympics
notes.
tonight. BRB House on Fire.
Okay. On that note, the Canadian Grand Prix will be not next Sunday. It will be the Sunday after. So the Canadian Grand Prix is on the 16th of April at normal time. Obviously, next week is Easter Sunday, and we will take the week off VL. However, Lamar, let's do some ovals. Yeah? All right, boys?
Boys?
Ovals.
Bet.
Ovals.
Bet.
Watch.
So, yeah. Canadian Grand Prix is on the 16th. And then, assuming nothing goes wrong, 23rd will be the start of the European leg. Like I said, if you want to make a deal now, get it DM'd to me. I will approve it provided it is legal, i.e. within the rules, and then it will just take effect as soon as the Canadian Grand Prix is over. I may even allow people to sort of like loan drivers across for the Canadian Grand Prix, even though it wouldn't be official. Because you can always loan drivers to other teams, provided, again, it fits within top 10 rules and captaincies and stuff. So you could even do it for Canada, provided you're still watching the stream and know about that secret tech, which I'm guessing is very few people. So, Travis, you've got the advantage there.
Hey.
But yeah, we can call that a race now, I think. Yeah. So, Dan, Copy's not here. Thanks for the top tier race commentary. I'm sure everyone loved it.
No, you.
Oh, he's still here. Okay. Still, Benders, you per usual, you do magical work, and you've also lent your voice and likeness to the stream today. So I am eternally grateful.
Thank you.
Travis, thanks for assisting at the end with being here. And to anyone still watching, which according to Twitch is a few people, hope you enjoyed the race. Thank you very much for joining us,
Yeah,
and we will
I've got
see you again in a fortnight for
I've
the
got
Flat
a nice
Bodge.
parting statement as well, if there's time for that.
I will leave the floor with Stillben to close us out.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for watching. Just remember, true success is not merely the achievement of one's goals, but the realization of one's fullest potential in the pursuit of a purpose greater than oneself. Sayonara.
Anyway,
Here's some pentakill.